if we expect to have any form of advancement and economic freedom. So I like this particular situation. And actually, the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe welcomed the EU's decision, citing Kenya's proactive steps towards reforestation and climate smart agriculture. You know, so all this land grabbing should come to an end, guys, as we try and just create more forests, because the more forests we create, and especially in our country, the more breathable oxygen we have, the more a cleaner environment we have, the more rain we have, and so on and so forth. So let's continue with our efforts. And I think every single Kenyan, if I were the president, I would cordon off specific days of the year. I know there's a time we were given a public holiday.
Yeah.
I can't remember by which president. Was it President Uhuru or President Ruto? Tulipata public holiday tukaambiwa tupande miti.
We have done this before. We've done this even with.
I think we should make it like a monthly thing. Yeah, like we say every last Friday of the month.
Watu waende wapande miti
kabisa. Kazi zisha saa 6 mchana. Mfanye kazi by 12 or 1. Tumefunga tukoko tukipanda miti. I think if we do that for a year, imagine planting 1 million trees every month. Isn't that something?
It is, and actually, I think so far. We have planted a lot of trees so far, because I like it how Kenyans have taken this up to themselves to ensure that they plant trees all over. By the way, unaweza pata just a small group of maybe women, young people. Unapata kwamba most of the time when there's something they have to celebrate about, when there's something they have to do, most of them they will end up planting trees, and that is very important. I think this is something we've already taken in as Kenyans, and which is also changing our environment in a big time. Yes. All right. So the next story that I'm looking at here is let me take a quick look at this one. All right. There is this whole story of the Pope, that is Pope Leo, who has told the US, to stop the tragedy of war. And this is actually a situation that is plaguing the entire world right now. Let's not forget that even here in East Africa, we are facing a lot of war. There's the whole Sudan issue. There is also places like in the Congo forest, tunapigana vibaya sana. DRC Congo is facing a lot of issues regards to war. We also have places in Northern Africa that are facing war, and there's a whole European European issue situation where certain countries have never reeled really from the effects of war. So yeah, the Pope said it, and I feel like this is something that tunafaa kutilia maanane. It's very important.
Do you know war benefits only the rich?
Sure.
War only benefits the rich because they're the only ones who will sell ammunition. It will never benefit the common mwananchi because first of all they anaathirika zaidi. Yeah.
So it's so sad when you see now the common mwananchi doesn't understand that he's the one who suffers most when it comes to war. And again, if you want to know the price of peace, wait until there's no peace in your country.
If you want to understand the what? The
price? You want to understand the cost, let me say the cost.
Yes.
If you want to understand the cost of peace, ebu jipate katika zile countries ambapo kumekuwa na fights all through. People will tell you, you will understand.
Uliza watu wa Syria.
You will understand what it is. Like watu wameishi hata wakisikia. Wewe saizi ukisikia mlipuko wa tear gas. You want to hide even under
what are tear gas? You know the way a lorry could be driving down Mombasa road when the tire bursts.
Yes.
You know that loud bang.
Yeah.
Mimi ushtuka.
Sisi tunashtuka. I'm telling you, there are some people wamezoea.
It's so normal that if in a day it passes wanashanga
kwani leo kukoaje?
Ala, kwani vita imeisha?
So let's appreciate peace. Let us appreciate peace.
All right, let's check out the traffic for a second before we get back into the stories of the day. Traffic. I'm looking at this map of Nairobi, and I think it's very early. There's literally no traffic on the roads. It's now 6:31 a.m. The only thing I can see probably that has got some kind of a drama is this area known as Muthaiga Square. Muthaiga Square, as you're approaching Pangani from Survey, a little bit of traffic there. Then kuna aka barabara kadogo ka Gikomba. This is if you're coming from let me see where this is. It's called Landis Road. Landis Road, kuna traffic coming all the way from Bama Market as you go in up to Landis Road. A particular place is bumper to bumper. Where else do we have? I'm just looking for red. I can tell you where to avoid. Oh yeah, here we go. If you're coming from Mama Lucy Hospital heading towards Charina Club and Restaurant, that particular road is bumper to bumper.
Ngong Road on your way to around junction, of course, ukianzia pale kuna the stadium. Kuanzia that area of the stadium, there's also a little bit of traffic. Towards Prestige, also a little bit of traffic. Ukiingia town around community, a little bit of traffic. So ukipita pale, just be aware that kuna zile places. But I understand those places is because we have the cops there, and of course we have the traffic lights. Also on your way to town, that is through Mombasa Road, around Nyayo Stadium, of course pale things are just ni mapema lakini nijua tayari bado kuna a little bit of traffic all the way to Mombasa. Lights kengeleni kwa sasa hivi, I'm being told that things are just not that bad. There's a little bit of traffic but things are moving. Ferry zipo 4 zinahudumu. I'm being told that people are happy. The ferries are full, so everything is quite okay.
All right, that's some good news on the roads for you. We shall be giving you another update in the next 1 hour, so do stand by for that.
Traffic on Radio Generation.
All right, we're back. Giving you bold insights, of course, and hard truths. This is Radio Generation Kenya, 88.8 in Nairobi, rgk.co.ke across all social media platforms, or rather, that's where you can get us online. I hope you're listening to us. And of course, we said we are live on Facebook, Twitter. We're also live on our website as well, so why don't you get on there and let's get this conversation going. Now, we're still on our website, that is rgk.co.ke, where you'll get all the top stories, and there's one here that I'm seeing about hate speech and, you know, just hate in general. And this one is by Archbishop Muheria of the Catholic Church, who has urged youths to reject hate and embrace empathy. Now, here's the entire story, yeah? Nyeri Archbishop Anthony Muheria has urged young people to embrace empathy and listen to their leaders, warning against the rising culture of insults and political hostility. Speaking during a Sunday service, this is actually Sunday Mass, Archbishop Muheria expressed concern over what he termed a toxic political environment, where leaders often focus on personal attacks instead of dialogue. To our youth, I appeal for unity and openness. Walk with us. In politics today, we rarely tolerate one another. We compete in trading insults and publicly tearing each other down, he said. So, Archbishop Muheria of Nyeri,
yes,
basically just echoing words that anyone could say. You know, let's embrace empathy and let us discard hate.
I think
if we stop, and this is the same story, you know, even Christians believe in, you know, what Jesus told them, love one another, and that is the greatest law that you can, because if someone loves you, they will never hurt you. If someone loves you, they will never come to, you know, destroy your shop and steal your stuff. They'll never, you know, create memes depicting you in a bad way. Exactly. So the same way you love your mother, or you love your son or daughter, or you love your parents, and you would never do anything bad to them, it's the same love you should extend to your fellow Kenyan. Because let's be honest, Mkenya mwenzako amekukosea wapi? Yeah, just because leaders come and tell you, oh, you see, hata juzi vinyo tulienda wapi, unaona Kenya litufanya? No. Tell that leader, sisi tulifanyiwa, ni wewe ulifanyiwa.
Wewe ndo ulifanyiwa. Yeah, so and I think also the same applies even to the leaders themselves. If you really love Kenyans, you're not going to steal from Kenyans. Yeah.
Yes.
You won't steal from Kenyans. You won't want yourself just to be the wealthiest, the richest, while we have Kenyans who are going nights without food, who are going, you understand, who do not have clothes, who cannot afford even to buy medication for their sick ones.
Right.
You see, yeah, that is love. I think love should be two-way. It's both way.
You know, when we growing up,
yeah,
I would hear people say that pesa ni shetani. And I think I saw that even for myself. When I became an adult. You know, when you're seated in a place where money is just flowing, the temptation And at that particular point, you don't think about Kenyans. You're not thinking about, you're not thinking about the medicine.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about the hospitals that are supposed to, because you're just thinking of, unajua nikipata hii pesa,
nataka nijenge hii,
nikipata hii pesa,
the
things I would do, you know,
for yourself.
You would get, right now, you know, you're very righteous, and you're talking like this because you've not been in that position whereby you have the opportunity utoke na 100 million. Well, let me ask you something. What is the most amount of money you've ever held in your hands like this, or in your bank account?
Okay, I'm assuming you are asking the listener, not me.
I'm asking you.
I'm assuming you're asking the listener, not me. Yeah, not me.
I'm asking you.
I think nimeshika pesa mingi sana. All the money that I've passed through my hands, it's just passing through my hands.
I'm sure you've never, ever, and I could be wrong on this.
Yes.
Sasa nimeanza kukuogopa. Have you ever, had the opportunity or the privilege to have 100 million in your possession, under your control?
That one I have never.
And you know what? That is what public officers usually face almost on a daily. Yes? Whether you are an accountant in a government office, you're controlling 100 million, sometimes even 1 billion. Some, like, if a county like Nairobi can be given development funds of even say 170 billion, na wewe ndio ule accountant umepatwa hii nafasi account for this money, na unaona mahali unaweza finya, na pengine unaweza finya, na pengine ufinye zaidi, uone nikifanya hesabu yangu niko na roughly hapa, nikitoka hapa naweza toka na 100 million. You tell me the kind of temptation that is. You're probably earning a salary of I don't know, maybe 150,000 Kenya shillings per month. All right?
Yes.
You have bills. You have a wife who needs to be taken care of. You have children who need to go to school.
Yes.
And you're here struggling to, make ends meet. And we all know 150,000 Kenya shillings in Kenya nowadays is yani, it's good money, but it's useless money. All right? So now, and you're there, you're seated in a government office. Na kuna yani 170 billion that you are in control of. Ay, Trish, mimi sijui wewe ni mtu aina gani kama utakuwa tempted. And of course, there's people who have integrity who would never touch that money. But you need another level of integrity, yani, for you to let that money pass.
Well, it is
control yourself.
It is challenging.
And then the worst part
is yes.
The worst part is wewe utaiacha iende
and somebody else.
Mtu mwingine ataiba.
Well, I think that is one of the that is one of the excuses, lame excuses that Kenyans also use while they are taking this.
So unajiambia if I don't take it, Trisha atachukua pesa either way. So I might as well just wacha nijipange nayo, then tujue vile kutaenda mbele. Sometimes people are compromised. You can imagine you're there, you're controlling this money, then your boss comes and tells you, I need you to sign off on this money. Wewe kule yako out of 100 million, wewe kule yako 20, mimi hiyo 8 unipatie, najua wale wengine tunaenda kugawana nao itakuaje.
Kuna watu wengine huko. And
you know very well, Trish, if you do not sign off that money, two things might happen to you. Either you get fired or you disappear into Karura Forest or Ngong Forest.
The disappearance.
Sasa utafanya nini?
The disappearance part of, but well, whatever the case, I don't want to look for excuses for maybe being corrupt and so forth. Let us just hope for the best. Let us pray that these temptations will not come our way. By the way, sometimes I think all you can do is that let these temptations not come your way.
Yes.
And I think it will be okay.
Hiyo imetoka kwa hate speech. Hata tumefika aje kwa pesa kuiba kwa ofisi.
But mimi nashangaa tumefika hadi huko kwa pesa.
So you can check out that story on rgk.co.ke. I see you've identified another one. Yeah, what is that story that you're reading there?
Well, I think we talked about the Pope, and of course we are supporting what the Pope said. And also I saw the speaker of the National Assembly, Wetankula, akiongea na Wakenya pia, akiwaambia kwamba these people wanafaa waache hizo hate speech, wapunguze maneno makali. And I think he was addressing the politicians. But I think I know most of the time he was talking to the opposition, but what I would want to say is this cuts across the opposition and also those who are in government.
True.
Because kama ni maneno makali, we are seeing them coming from both of them.
There's actually a politician I was watching this yesterday on YouTube. A politician, he was coming from I don't want to mention the area, but he was saying that he was asking a crowd that he was addressing, should we go to Nairobi and show them what real goons look like? Ati Kenya walionyeshwa Thursday na Tuesday ulikuwa kionjo.
Imagine.
So he was talking to the people of his constituents.
And that is a leader who is in power right now.
Yes, a current sitting MP. Na akaambia watu ama tuende. And I was just thinking, instead of de-escalating, you're just escalating. Now it's become a comparison. Which region can produce better goons?
Yeah.
You know, which goons are more effective than the other? Why would a leader sit, or rather stand on a podium and talk like that? And the people are cheering him. Twende Nairobi, twende! Twende Nairobi, twende! And I was like, why would you do that?
It's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate.
De-escalate, not escalate. Talk about, talk about cohesion and love. Sema watu wa Nairobi mnafaa kuwa kama sisi watu wa huku. Tumetulia, tuna vita na mtu yoyote. That is the kind of conversation we should be having. Not tuende tukaonyesha venye sisi tunaweza kuwa baya. No, come on. Come on.
I think the message of cohesion and integration should be a message from each and every leader, as we are doing it right here, even the leaders themselves, because I think about most of these things that we are learning, and we keep on complaining, the young generation, the youth wamekosa integrity, hawana morals and all that, yet it is us leaders ambao tunawaonyesha. We are setting that example in public places.
Even at home, if you teach your children to hate their father or to hate their mother, they will take it up 100%.
Yes.
So if you see your child rebelling against your spouse, you should, sit that child down and mwambie, hey, can you stop talking to your father like that?
Yeah.
Can you stop talking to your mother like that?
Yes.
But the moment you encourage them and you are telling them, baba yako saa zingine anakuanga kichwa ngumu. Baba yako unajua anakuanga mjinga. Baba yako unajua anakuanga mlevi. Mama yako unajua, you even telling your child things about your mother that they shouldn't know.
They shouldn't, yeah.
Unajua mama yako anaendanga huko na wanaume, and you're like, please, if your wife is doing that, please don't let your children into that nonsense. You understand?
Yes.
If your husband is doing, that, do not. You should teach your children, because in future these children will grow up to be parents. And what kind of parenthood do you want to teach them? Is it the parenthood of conflict, or the parenthood of love? So please, leaders, I know some of you are listening, because we're going to be inviting you here one of these fine days to have these conversations. Like today we're going to be having a leader, by the way. She's a woman. I can reveal that 16 minutes in advance. She's a lady. She's a seasoned politician, very vocal as well. So she will be here to talk about some of the issues that this country is facing. So definitely a conversation worth having. There is this story about the way Kenya is in talks to adopt India's UPI for seamless digital payments. Again, it's on our website. You can check it out. Written by Brenda Soki. Kenya is in talks to adopt India's unified payments interface in a move that could transform the country's digital payments landscape. Officials from the National Payments Corporation of India, that is NPCI, confirmed that discussions are underway with the Central Bank of Kenya to explore how UPI can be integrated into Kenya's financial system. The interface has played a key role in driving financial inclusion, improving remittance services, and boosting payment efficiency in India. India currently is a country that has a population of 1.4 billion people. So I think I would trust their system. Sisi hapa with our 55 million Kenyans, we are unable just to get our systems running the way they should. Have you ever tried paying for anything on government platforms?
Yeah.
It's one of the worst experiences, and I'll be very honest. Ni vizuri tujiambie ukweli if we are going to improve these services. There is a time, and I think I even mentioned this last week, I was paying for a service, and I found out that I was really messed up in the processes of paying. Number one, they're not open, they're not transparent, they're not straightforward. Unapigishwa kona mingi sana before you even get to the end point. And I remember you mentioned sometime last week but one, or maybe last week but two, you were saying that someone is benefiting when the system is broken down.
Yeah. somebody somewhere.
Yeah,
so
and a benefit.
You want to go and fix systems.
I called someone from that government system that had, messed me up. And I when they answered, because I called the number on the website. Nikamwambia, hey guys bana, hii system mimi imeniangusha. Akaniambia, wacha nione nikusaidie, acha nikusaidie. Alafu akaniuliza, si utanunua lunch? And I was like, sasa,
you see,
nitanunua lunch na ni system yenu ndio imeniangusha.
Wewe umefanya
nimefanya kile nilikuwa nataka kufanya. Sasa hii lunch mbona nanunua? Na ni system yenu, hebu fix.
Alafu anaanza kucheka hapo.
No, the funny thing is, ukikataa kubaiwa lunch, ukitaka kubuy lunch rather, sasa hii hata shida yako ndio itakuwa sorted kabisa.
More complicated.
Unaambiwa sasa boss kuja kwa ofisi uone tu mkubwa ndio uweze kusaidika hapa.
Mkubwa ndio atakusaidia. Well, I think even as a country, I know as we said, those are teething problems most of the time. I'm just looking forward to that one day when all the systems zitakuwa zimekuwa seamless. Like we want to go digital, like what you're saying with other countries that are operating digitally, just everything digital, and everything is just working out well. I think like what we had said, there's this the workers who are in the government, civil servants and so forth, is that requirement they were given of going back to school and bringing, especially those are in leadership, bring a degree. Was it a degree? No, a master's degree. A master's degree.
Yes.
I think that is also one of the reasons why maybe unaweza kuwa umeletewa systems, but now your ability to operate such systems is wanting.
Exactly.
And that is where now these challenges are coming in. So we are hoping that, because right now the generations that are getting into these positions, the young generation, most of them, they are techno savvy.
Oh yeah.
All of them actually, because it has always become a basic requirement in most of these employment opportunities. So we are hoping that as time goes by, there is a time that utakuwa unafika mahali hivi unataka huduma ya serikali and things just work out seamlessly, very fast.
Yes.
And kila kitu inakuwa poa.
And like I said, I want them to be friendly. Like we've said, India has got a population of
there are so many. Yeah, there are so many.
And you can imagine if they need to go to a government agency or a government office to get services. Those services, like by the time unahudumiwa, that's the word. By the time unahudumiwa, it will take ages. Yeah, so the fact that the system is quite fast and it's working in India, I think that is a very good idea. The fact that we have actually spoken to guys who've been there, done that, and now they're having a seamless time dealing with their UPI, or a Unified Payments Interface, so that you just get your services delivered to you ASAP haraka. So there's another story here that we need to check out before we exit this studio, before we exit rather for the news. Where is this? This one is actually a story that is touching on our industry, which is the broadcast industry. Trump administration fires hundreds of Voice of America journalists, shattering US funded news outlet. Now, the Voice of America, which we all know as VOA, it's a US government-funded international broadcaster. So it's like the BBC or Al Jazeera, but now this one is 100% funded by the government, has been effectively dismantled after the Trump administration terminated the majority of its remaining workforce. The decision, which affects hundreds of journalists, has drawn sharp criticism from within and outside of the organization, citing widespread dysfunction, bias, and waste. The administration justified the mass layoffs as part of a broader effort to downsize federal agencies. Now, in total, 639 employees were dismissed on Friday, including journalists from the Persian language service. Many of them who had only recently been recalled to duty following a military escalation between Israel and Iran were reportedly locked out of the building after stepping outside for a break. You can imagine waking up one day usikie KBC imefungwa. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Yeah? You know, that is what Trump did. Umetoka nje, maybe umeenda for your lunch break or tea break or whatever break it is, then you come back and you find kazi imeisha. This, by the way, would be very, very disheartening. It is actually, and you know, this has also affected Kenyans,
I have so many friends, by the way, who are working for the VOA.
Yeah, Swahili.
Yesterday I saw how they were lamenting. Yeah, Swahili. Actually, they are based in Mombasa.
Right.
And yesterday I saw how they were really complaining. There are also some other journalists, like maybe you've been given a grant, which is supposed to be financed by the America.
Yeah.
So you realize that most of the time, since the taking over of presidency by Donald Trump, things have changed. Kuna watu walikuwa wameshinda mpaka hizo grants na mpaka sasa wanasema hawajawahi kulipwa. But you know, okay, let us just come back kidogo tuangalie what the reasons why Trump based this retrenchment on. I'm looking at this accusation of bias and propaganda.
Yep.
The Trump administration accused Voice of America of promoting radical propaganda and exhibiting leftist bias. Yeah, specific criticism included VOA's coverage being perceived as anti-Trump and not aligning with the administration's narrative.
Because
anti-Trump, and not aligning to the current administration.
You know, the funny thing is, do you know why the VOA was started? The VOA was started sometime during World War II. And it was, created to counteract Nazi propaganda. Yes. And, you know, of course, it was meant to promote American democratic values worldwide. The same way BBC also, you know, wants to spread, do I call it Eucanism, of the British culture all over the world. So when they when they dismantle VOA in this kind of way, saying that, you know, it has got this bias going on, I'm like, wasn't it started because of the fact that it was promoting American values worldwide? So if Donald Trump feels that this is not going the way it's supposed to have gone, I think there probably was a better way of dealing with the issue. Number one, he could have probably hired different people at the helm instead of dismantling an entire TV station and radio station.
Yes,
they had radio shows and TV shows as well.
Do you know that is one of the reason behind coming up with the creation of VOA?
Yes.
You know, that is one of another reason why this retrenchment was done, because there is also one reason which was cited, which is shift in media strategy and relevance.
Okay.
Trump allies such as Rick Grenell argued that VOA was a relic of the past and unnecessary in a modern of the past and in a modern media landscape, suggesting that government-funded media outlets were outdated. You see?
Crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Do you know the meaning of a relic? Now, in case you go to your shags na unaonanga relic, unaonanga mama yako ama shosho yako akiwa na zile manyungu za kitambo, those are relics. You know, things that came from back in the day, na zenye probably hazitumiki at all.
Yes,
those are relics. So what Donald Trump is saying is that this particular station or media outfit is a relic. It has got no function anymore. But the funny thing is, I feel like, because Donald Trump will leave office at one point in his life.
Of course, he will.
The next president will definitely bring this back to life.
And they really have a lot of work to do. No, I do not understand. Most of these times, we have also seen this even in our African leadership. When a president, every president comes in with their manifestos, with their policies, there are some things they want to achieve, goals and whatever, but after their period is done, ameachia project katikati,
ndio
the incoming other president akiingia, some of them wanatoa zile, forgetting that this is taxpayers money. It is something that was started by the taxpayers money, right? Then we ukikuja unasema hii hakuna mahali ilikuwa inaenda, unaiondoa, ingine inakuja unaiondoa. So I'm looking at now maybe the mess that the incoming president after Trump, after Donald Trump,
the mess that he'll have to clean up.
That he'll have to clean up.
Yeah.
I mean, how long will he take to clean up that mess first of all?
But what do the American people think? You know, sisi kutoka hapa Nairobi, we might be looking at things and saying that it's a mess. Oh, you know, Trump is doing nini. But he was elected, and let's not forget that one of the selling points of his re-election was the fact that he was going to put America
first.
Exactly. At the very top of his agenda. So are Americans thinking, you know, a few months down the line that this is what they wanted, what they voted for?
Okay.
Of course, some would disagree, but you know, we're looking at the majority. What are the majority saying? You know, so we shall be deciphering some of that by the even here on the People's Breakfast, the home of hard truths and bold insights.
So there were a lot of reasons that Donald Trump cited the president of US, including the strategic realignment of US soft power, where the administration's moves were criticized by VOA director Michael and others as self-inflicted blow to US national security, arguing that VOA's role in countering disinformation from adversaries like China, Russia and Iran was vital. Well,
the US, of course, exercises a lot of soft power all over the world.
Yes.
But also they are very, they exercise the other form of power, the hard power, if I may call it that. So soft power, in case you're wondering what soft power is, you know, a lot of American culture has spread over the world. And it is through that kind of influence that America has been able to control a lot of
through soft power.
So yeah, so them actually getting rid of things like VOA is another way of crippling their influence and the extension of their soft power. Because what else in terms of, you know, news do we watch from the US? Fine, we watch things like CNN, but those ones are not directly, you know, propagating American culture per se. Them, they're just reporting news. Yeah, so hapa kuna shida kidogo.
Ipo shida. So we are really sorry about Kenyans, our fellow journalists who lost their employment due to Trump's action.
I remember I almost applied for a VOA position last year.
And Africans, by then, we continue suffering. We really are being directly affected by Trump's actions and decisions every now and then. Remember, it started with the USAID, and the US sasa imefika huko, like a lot of Trump's decisions are affecting us Kenyans directly.
All right, we're taking a short break here. Let's listen into the news, and then when we come back, we shall be telling you about our esteemed guest and the conversations that we're going to be having here. Remember, you can also reach us, and let's have this conversation going.
This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja has denied claims that he sponsored goons to disrupt protests in the capital last week. Speaking during a live broadcast on his channels, the governor termed the claims as false, malicious, and politically motivated. During protests in Nairobi last week, a group of goons invaded the streets in the CBD and clashed with protesters rallying against the killing of teacher Albert Ojwang in police custody. A mask vendor, Boniface Mwangi, who remains in hospital, was also shot by a police officer, sparking widespread condemnation. 2 officers involved in the incident are in custody.
I have never and will never sponsor violence of any kind. My entire political life has been anchored on siasa safi, which upholds human dignity, the rule of law, and the democratic rights of every Kenyan. I have never used violence to gain power, and I never will. My record speaks for itself. These accusations are not only false, they are a desperate attempt by certain well-known individuals whose political careers are marked by violence, by intimidation, by chaos, who have gone as far as to hire goons to come and infiltrate protests.
Amid the planned impeachment of Isiolo Governor Abdi Guyo, a section of professionals and elders from the county have appealed for calm. The group called for dialogue between the assembly and the executive. They said although impeachment is a legal process, it should only be employed only if all other means have failed.
Ingawa ni chombo halali, ni hatua kali ambayo inapaswa kutekelezwa tu wakati njia zingine zote za utatuzi zimeshindwa. Inaweza kusababisha ukosefu mkubwa wa utulivu, usumbufu wa utoaji wa huduma.
Wameanza kidogo, haki yao ni haki yao ambayo kisheria amepewa, lakini kama sisi wazee tumeonelea, hatuungi huyu mkono, lakini tunaunga amani ya Isiolo.
The High Court in Isiolo issued an order halting the impeachment of Governor Guyo pending the hearing and determination of the case. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has appealed for national unity and reconciliation. This comes as the country faces heightened political tension fueled by youth-led protests. Speaking during a Sunday Holy Mass at Christ the King Cathedral in Bungoma, Wetangula called on leaders and citizens to embrace humility, prayer and service to steer the country through its current turmoil. Wetangula urged the young generation to channel their than confrontation.
Na Father amesema tuombe amani, kwa sababu amani haina alternative in life. Tuombe amani, nchi yetu iwe na amani, tuheshimiane. Hata wale viongozi wenye wanaingia upinzani tunawaambia wapunguze lugha chafu na lugha ya matusi. We can disagree but with respect. We can compete but with respect. The fact that I'm competing with you does not make you a bad person.
Kenya has been designated a low-risk country under the Europeans' new under-deforestation regulations, a move that is expected to ease the burden of compliance for local farmers and exporters. EU Ambassador to Kenya, Henry Geiger, said the classification reflects Kenya's commendable efforts in environmental conservation and governance. The recognition means Kenyan exports are likely to face heightened scrutiny under EU's Green Deal. The deal mandates that all imports be free from links to forest destruction. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the U.S. devastated the Iranian nuclear program with a strike on 3 sites on Sunday. Hegseth says the strikes were not about the regime change, but President Trump has consistently stated for over 10 years that Iran must not get a nuclear weapon. He said the U.S. sent bombers over the Pacific as a decoy and did not come under fire during the operation.
Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Many presidents have dreamed of delivering the final blow to Iran's nuclear program, and none could until President Trump. The operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back.
Iran says that the U.S. was responsible for the consequences of its act of aggression. And that's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning. I'm Winnie Maganga.
Bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
Welcome to the People's Breakfast. This is Radio Generation 88.8 in Nairobi, rgk.co.ke. That is where you're listening to us online. 89.5 is where you're catching us as far as Garissa is concerned.
All the way to Mombasa, 90.7, 92.1, that is Malindi. 92.6. If you want to follow us on our social media pages, it is at Radio Generation Kenya. That is on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and even on X platform. Remember, we are live, by the way, on all those platforms.
Yes, indeed.
You go on our X platform, you're going to find us there. You go on YouTube, you're going to find us there. You go on Facebook, we are right there, holding these real conversations and talks about policies, about topical issues that are affecting our country. And my name is Triciah Wayua.
And mine is Mungala, Mbuvi. Now we're going to be introducing our guests shortly, but before we do that, it's important we let you know what is happening on your papers. For instance, on the front page of the Standard, we are seeing this story rather of the betrayals of Gen Z. And if you check your page 4 and 5 of that paper, what you will see is that for a long time, Raila Odinga stood out as the voice of the common Kenyan in the face of repressive governments. So it was no surprise that during the height of last year's Gen Z protest, a video of a young woman asking the former prime minister to step aside so the new generation could hold the government accountable went viral. Now, the cost was heavy, with several Gen Z protesters killed or maimed. But the real shock came when Raila quickly struck a deal with President William Ruto. A move widely seen as a betrayal of the noble cause of good governance he had championed for decades. Today, although the youth continue to push for change, many feel let down. They see Raila as a betrayer of their dream for a new Kenya.
Okay.
Quite the caption there. Quite the caption. Pages 4 and 5 of the Standard.
Well, on the Star newspaper, the biggest story there, it's pain of 3 billion shillings daily loss in protest as huge demos are planned for Wednesday. That story, you can find it on page 4 and 5. But we know it's always a doomsday whenever there are anti-government protests, says traders. Wafanyabiashara wanazungumza, wanasema huwa ni loss kubwa sana. And then there's another story, church remembers slain Gen Z protest. Yesterday, by the way, we saw the church, we saw church leaders, we saw believers in churches praying for the Gen Zs, the slain. I mean, they remembered the Gen Zs and also had prayers together with their families, their loved ones, and it was painful, by the way, watching that. I could listen to the testimonies, I could listen to the stories of people about their loved ones, about how they disappeared, about what really happened to them, and it was just it was so emotional.
It was.
So may they rest in peace, and we pray for peace for their family members. Ruto Rigathi in battle for the Mount Kenya East vote block.
That is, we saw them in Meru and various other places in the Mount Kenya region over the weekend. And you can tell that they are really trying to get into the good books of the people of the mountain. But I feel like they need to get into the good books of every single Kenyan.
Every single Kenyan, not just the Mount Kenya.
Whether you're from the plains, the river lake, whether you're from the mountain, or whether you're from the desert area, they need to get into the good books of Kenyans.
I want to remind politicians that you might see Kenyans quiet. And I'm so sure Kenyans cannot forget what they have been going through.
Right.
Kenyans can never forget what you leaders are doing. By the way, we are keeping this in record.
Yes.
What you leaders are doing. There's another story on page 12 of the Star newspaper about Kenyans who are rotting in India jails over drug trafficking. And we keep on telling Kenyans, by the way, sheria ya hapa Kenya is not the same as ukitoka tu, yani ukifikanga ukipanda ndege, like unaabiri ndege unatoka nje.
Wewe jua sasa umetoka katika the safe protection of the Kenyan constitution and the Kenyan people.
If you are on the wrong, that is in a foreign country. I mean, you can remember the other day that lady was being
in Malaysia set to face execution over drug trafficking claims. Now, you know, there are places where they don't laugh about such things as corruption.
Yes.
And sana drugs. Hizi vitu zingine hata sahau hizo mnaweza negotiate. But drugs, they have no space, zero tolerance towards such kinds of activities, and that is why you're told, if you're going to leave this country, probably go to, and especially these Asian countries, where they have very strict rules as far as that is concerned. You need to be very careful how you engage with the officials of that country, and even the citizens of that country. You need to be very careful how you engage with them, because huko hawacheki. When it comes to cracking down on issues such as trafficking, whether it's human trafficking, drugs trafficking, and so on and so forth, they take them very seriously. And that is why you will find a lot of Kenyans being incarcerated in countries where they thought things were going to be easy for them. Kumbe, things are not as they seem.
Yeah, it is not like you're here in your country. So anytime you're stepping out to a different country and you want to go and do the games that you've been doing in your country, just know that things are not like here in Kenya. Then on Daily newspaper, there is the biggest story there about State House getting another 890 million for renovations. That's what it says. President has raised taxes, slashed subsidies, and cut budgets across nearly public sector in the name of austerity. And hidden behind manicured lawns and guarded fences, Kenya's seat of executive power has quietly transformed into a permanent construction zone. From refurbishments to roofing, works have been on since President Ruto took office in 2022, gobbling up hundreds of millions of scarce public funds. You will see this story on page 7 of the Daily newspaper.
All right, that is the Daily Nation.
Yes.
Quite an interesting story there. They have said it's a permanent construction zone. I'm absolutely loving that caption, because I've been thinking about it.
Yes.
I just never thought about it in that perspective. All right.
You know, this has reminded me when it was being refurbished last time, and when the design was changed, Kenyans were just mad all over.
Yes.
No, hatukutaka watoe. Hiyo imekuanga ni iconic. Unajua imekuanga hivyo for years. Sisi tunataka the old look.
We need also to learn to just let go. Apart from the fact that it was constructed and we were not okay with it, we just need to get to a point in our lives where we just also need to just let things go.
Sure.
And accept that change is inevitable.
Now the only concerns that Kenyans should be having is the concern of funds, public funds,
and how we spend those particular funds.
Yes, I think that should be our concern, not just hiyo kubadilisha muonekano wa State House.
All right, now it's exactly 13 minutes past the hour, and like we said, we have a guest in studio with us who's going to be having a conversation surrounding some of the activities that we've seen for the last couple of days, and we are talking about the protests that ended up having individuals losing their lives, others being maimed, and others obviously actually from last year, June 25th, others disappearing. And it is a situation that has worried very many Kenyans, and the international media as well, the international community as well, has come out to speak against some of these things that we have been seeing. Kenyans are asking for answers. Some have come, some are not coming at all. We are not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel as far as that is concerned. So allow me to introduce our esteemed guest this particular morning. A very good morning to you, Mheshimiwa. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Sisi tuko salama sana. Welcome to Radio Generation.
I am happy to be here.
Beautiful
place.
Have you heard of us before?
Yes, I've been following you the whole week since you started.
Oh, really? Wow. What do you think? And be honest about it. What do you think?
The place of truth,
hard truths and bold insights.
You're doing exactly that. You're giving the hard truth from a different perspective.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming to our studios. Venye tulikuita huku kutupatia stress mingi ati sasa alafu huku tuambia ati nitumeni maswali nijue kinye mtatuli. You know there are some who do that actually.
You know your age mates. You don't disturb people.
Yes. First of all, a big shout out to you for what you have been doing. We have seen a lot of conversation online. You talking about democracy and other aspects of governance and so on and so forth. And I think that is what we need in this particular country. Conversations that will actually help us.
True.
Unlike other politicians who come on board and they're dividing Kenyans. We just saw another politician the other day over the weekend saying that they should send goons goons over to Nairobi. What is your perspective on that, by the way?
I think we are at a very low point, you know, and I think it's Plato who said that if you don't go and lead, you'll be led by people who are inferior to you.
Right.
So we who understand the professionalism, doing things the right way, we are scared of politics. So we let others, the goon types, think that we're in a goon competition.
Right.
If we want to survive the next 60, we have many years now?
We are 60 years.
62 years old, right?
Yes.
If we want to survive the next 62 years, we need to do things differently. And I'm really insisting on professionalism.
Right.
What really hurts me in this country is seeing a meme on Facebook. Usijaribu kutafuta pesa na akili ya shule. What does that tell you? So even our education is nothing.
Yes.
It doesn't fit in our economy. So usitafuta na akili ya shule, utafuta na akili gani? Those are the things that make us lack the professionalism that we need to take our country to the next 60 years.
Do you feel like our politicians, as they are our leaders, especially the elected ones, are doing enough to ensure that we are in that particular space where we can actually exercise our democracy and bring, even voices that we do not agree with onto the same table and actually just have conversations that will help the country? Because we have seen leaders who also just come on board and say that the protests, for example, that we saw in June 25th last year, were not as violent as we thought. Some of these things were AI generated and so on and so forth. Why would a sitting MP come out and say the violence meted on his particular people were non-existent?
I think the issue is demand and supply. These guys know the scarcity of opportunities, so they are territorial about their positions, and that is why they want to protect. They don't want to be seen like, oh, they're opening, they're feeling sorry for someone, or they're feeling like the police are not doing the right thing, or they're feeling that Kenyans are doing the wrong thing. Yet we know that's part of democracy. So they want to protect their position, because once you lose your position as MP or the benefits you get, then you come to the real world where all of us are suffering. So they are not doing enough in terms of policy and legislations that create the marketplace, for opportunities to thrive, for businesses to thrive, for employment to thrive. So for them, they're just protecting their interests. From where I see it.
Right. Do you have a question for Justin?
I just admire how eloquent she is, how she's so firm in
articulating her points,
issues. Yes, and not even here, even outside there. So I admire that, and also I know you are a champion of economic democracy. Before even we get to the police reforms, and I would like to know, do you think as a country we are economically democratic? Really?
No, we are not. Actually, we are politically democratic. Unfortunately for the brutal police brutality.
Yes.
But in real sense, I feel the lawyers have done their part to get us where we are in terms of laws. Now it's time for people who understand the economy to rise up so that they can influence policies that create employment. When you look at even the goons or people who come when there's mandamano or demonstrations, these people have nothing to lose.
Yes.
If you had a car, you'd be worried about stoning someone else's car, burning someone else's car, stealing from another person, because you have something to lose. So at this point, enough of the politics, enough of the theatrics, enough of the laws. Now we have to focus on creative ways of growing our economy so that everyone is somewhere, everyone feels they have something to lose. So that even when you're going to demonstrate, you have the discipline. Like I say, demand and supply. If you do not have a job, you're going to feel like the one who is in a job already is the one who is making you go through the problems you're going through. So that is why I decided this is the conversation I'll be pushing in terms of politics.
Yes,
we need to identify business solutions, economic solutions to taking our country forward.
Yeah, because I think that is the reason why even we have youths that are unemployed, and that is the reason why we will always have violence. From the young people. I know you are an entrepreneur, and what has been happening? The protests of last year, this year, how has this affected your business?
One, like last year, people would say, excavation, that's the business of excavation.
Yes.
And someone promises, you'll come excavate tomorrow. Then they tell you, no, don't come. I haven't gone to the bank to find out whether my loan has gone through. You see, that whole week, the time it was due Monday to Monday, people never used to go to town. Something else, you'd see, maybe your lorry passes in town, it is stoned. Another cost that is affecting us, and I think it's policy. When you look at tires, people say lorries drive, they're in old tires. The cost of a tire is so expensive, you end up buying a second hand. So when you look at the argument that the cost of living is high, yes it is, but even the cost of business and for making us even make a living is already high. So I think the protests just cause some form of instability,
yes,
you feel like hata nikienda kuchimba, if I excavate today I won't have the money to buy materials tomorrow for foundation. So there's a lapse in terms of delivery, and then again there's lack of money. The economy is not doing well, so people are focusing on buying basics instead of construction.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting you're talking about businesses, and we've seen lately and actually I think it happened sometime last year, and even when we started just protesting as a country, especially after every election, there's this whole issue of business communities coming together to protect their businesses, whether it's in Nairobi or other parts of the country. And it has ended up being a violent engagement between the protesters and this so-called business community. Are you, like, you're a business person in Nairobi, have you been engaged in any business conversations to protect your businesses and how to go about it?
Let me speak about my mom has a shop in Kibera. That is where now the protection comes, that you have to always ferry your stuff from the hardware to hide back somewhere.
Yes.
So already organizing the person who will carry your products so that they're not burnt. You see, that is the conversation, and again it's a cost to you.
Yes.
And that is why I said, if all Kenyans had something to lose, you would demonstrate without looting, without destroying anyone's property, because you know the cost of having that business. But now, as it is, you just have to protect yourself, and then it ends up being violent, and then it ends up being a situation of these ones have, these ones do not have, so those ones who do not have are revenging on those ones who have, and again it's a struggle. Additionally, when I was there during 2007 election, I grew up in Kibera, and one of the saddest thing was that people would say, no, you have to leave these houses because you were given these houses by Kenyatta. But if you know, in Nairobi,
the houses in Kibera,
they're estates, they're good estates, they're like for Jesus Estate, Ayani, But when you look at buying a house a while back, you used to buy the house through HFCK. They were built by National Housing. So again, this idea politicians have put into people's heads is that, no, when I'm in power, you people are going to get free things.
Yes.
We're supposed to make people understand it is us who are coming up with policies to allow you to thrive in whatever way, whether you want to build, whether you want to buy a house, at least you can thrive. But the argument of people are given things is not, it's a lie. It doesn't work out.
All right, so on to what happened last week.
Yes.
We saw the business community in Nairobi coming out to protect their businesses.
Yes.
And that was, of course, in the name of the goons.
Yes.
I don't know. When you saw that particular situation of cops working hand in hand with people who had, rungus,
yes,
crude weapons, what came to your mind?
I felt, guys, we've gone on a low. Yani, we are nose diving. What is that? Cops are working with goons.
Me, I thought those were actually plain clothes cops.
With those,
I thought
actually,
because there's no universe I expect cops to work with goons. Yes.
And that is where there's a video of a lawyer who was beaten up. You remember, Apple? I think I and them. And that is when I realized, a week ago, the president was saying, I want to come up with policies that will make Nairobi a town, modern city. In my mind, I was like, these are the policies. Whatever the goons are doing, those are the policies you're telling us as a president. Or again, you look at, I want to transform this county through intergovernmental interventions, inter-county and government, national government interventions. So these are the policies. I feel like there is a lot of confusion, and that is why I insisted that when you elect people who do not go beyond protecting their seats, people who focus on the role and not the impact, then they will not think about the policies. Because it was okay for people to demonstrate as long as, and these people are peaceful. So when the goons are brought to protect, what are they protecting? And they own nothing. Remember when the ones were being beaten up by the owners of business and even the peaceful demonstrators.
Yes.
So it was just politics, and that's why I said enough of the politics and the theatrics. Yes.
Well, somebody would just ask, first of all, why were the goons hired? First of all, does it mean that Kenyans cannot do peaceful protests?
I think it was a way of weakening the peaceful protests. Already we know that ideally what are protests in Kenya? When Baba is doing it as a mere protest, there's always the commotion. So the Gen Zs have brought another perspective. We are peaceful, we are only demonstrating. So they just wanted to infiltrate and make the demonstrations look bad. Because it was a new face. Gen Zs were bringing a different face of demonstrations. We are organized, we are peaceful.
We are peaceful.
So they wanted to bring the usual old ways of doing things by bringing goons.
Wow. So do you believe, do you believe we can have those peaceful demonstrations? And first of all, what reforms do you think can be put in place to ensure that the business people are catered for, the protesters are also catered for, and even the government?
I think we can have a different way of doing things. One, I insisted that when the policies are right, everyone will have something to lose because they are thriving. If your business is working, would you come to be paid 1,000? You will continue with your biashara. Yeah, you will protect your staff. You'll continue selling, and then those in power, and I always say the appointed and the elected, because they're the ones in power. They need to realize that there'll always be dissenting voice. Allow people to just demonstrate, let them say what they are saying, without really bringing in the issue of goons and fighting, even the police being volatile. I think one of the reforms I feel is that when you look at our training, how our police are trained, you'll see GSU Nutawala, AP Nutawala, police in Kiganjo. And then when there's these reforms that came that they'll be doing, I think, together, multi-operations. When there's something, they come together.
They all come together.
But you see now, their training is different. There's one who's been trained to beat up people. There's one who's been trained to the law, the police. The others who have been trained, AP to linda the administrative part of it. So when they come to demonstration, everyone is doing their own thing according to how they were trained. How I wish they're all trained. Basically, all of them, when it's basic, when in entry level, they're trained the same thing. And then when you want to specialize, you go AP, you go GSU. When you are growing up again, there were demonstrations. But you used to see people saying, when you wanakuja na when you wanaitwa fanya fujo uone. They were the GSU. And they always come with sticks. They used to come with sticks. I never saw them with guns at that point, since I was young. Then you see now others don't even come with, they're called barricades. When you watch movies, it's demonstration. They come with barricades. We don't usually see them with guns. I think when it's really out of hand. But you see, our cops, immediately they land, they have their guns on. So what does it mean? They are coming to kill people.
I mentioned this sometime last week, and I was like, I'd like to see a day where we have demonstrations, and then the police just show up with, their shield. And they're just coming to be like, guys, we are here to make sure that no one gets to you, not the other way around. It's actually a crazy thing. So when we see cops coming to, and this is whichever cops they are, sometimes we see them being covered up. And I know there was a court situation whereby a judge said that cops shouldn't cover themselves, but we still see them coming with balaclavas, barakoa, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, why would a cop want to hide their identity?
I think they know that they're going to do the wrong thing. I think so. When they're coming there, they know I want to do the right thing. I want to do the wrong thing. They're already prepared to do the wrong thing. Because why are you covering yourself? And then that's why I say that they come there feeling like, no, we are coming to beat up people. They have not really understood that demonstrations, or rather they're not moved with time. Then they're still in the colonial aspect that the police are here to beat up people. And that's why I even feel like even our training, it's still colonial. The way I see the police
it boils down to the curriculum at Kiganjo.
What they're trained. Number 2, unemployment. Sometimes it's not your passion to be a policeman or a woman, but your father can influence some bribe here and there, and you go there. You don't love it, but since your parents want you to have money, so it's not your passion. If
the way we see the recruitment has got thousands and thousands of youths just lining up to be waangaliwe meno zao and scars on their body.
But it's not. Maybe if you ask someone, it wasn't their passion to be a cop, but since the dad is a cop and he has influence, you're going there. And additionally, the age. At 18 years, you're still young. You're a young person. You don't even have the feeling of life. You don't have the reality of life. But at maybe 25, and that's why I'd proposed, maybe a cop should be recruited from 25 years. Life has humbled you. At 18, you're still seeing, you still have the high school mentality. So you're not seeing life. You're just used, when they ask for snacks, I'm getting. And that's why you see when they come to arrest you, they tell you, let a 30K. They're out of touch of, even the economy is not working.
The person they're arresting does not have 30K.
Even the 1,000 Hana, but then they're out of touch with the reality that the economy is not working. But then they're there to just make money. So I feel like unemployment forces some people, if your father has control, or your mother, you join the police force, it's not your passion. Again, your age, you're very young, so you're not respecting even life.
The other day we were talking about this whole issue of police reforms with Mbuvi here. And first of all, Mbuvi was like, there should be the period of training should be increased. I was like, they need to change the curriculum of training the police actually when they go for the training, because we are like 6 months. This, like you're saying, this person has just completed high school. I remember when we were finishing high school, the way we are perceiving things. Like me, I was like, nikimaliza tu hivi naenda kupata kazi, nitakuwa napata pesa, nitakuwa like, you don't know the challenges of life. There is nothing you don't understand.
They've not matured even
Yes,
in
we
terms
are
of their
not
thinking.
mature.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is why Mbuvi was suggesting hawa warudi wasome tena. Then now the issue of also the grades
Yes.
came up. So we are like, sasa we had trouble with the D. And me, I was like, okay, ni sawa, the D can still go, but I feel like the curriculum should be changed. The way the training is done also should be changed. Maybe, what is your view about now the training and the whole curriculum of the police service?
I think if you, for basic level, all of you go to one school, not
Yes.
Kiganjo, not AP, not GSU, all of you basic level. Then when you're specializing is when now you go to AP, Kiganjo and all these things. That is one. So that all of them can have basics, the
Yes.
same basics,
Yes.
so that the same operation model. And number two, in terms of grades, no, when we say we want A students,
Yeah.
what will happen to the D students? I feel let it be open so that if it is your passion to be a policeman or a policewoman, apply there because you want to be a policewoman, not that your father forced you or you have connections, because again passion matters. If their cops have met who have passion and they do the right thing, but they feel frustrated because of these others who are brought in, they don't have the passion. Again, about the curriculum, in terms of the duration,
The length of
9
Length
months is
and-
very little, right?
Yeah.
I think it should be like around 2 years or something.
Exactly.
You specialize seriously, and then stuff that is up to date. When you look at even our universities, sometimes the lecturer has the pages are yellow with age
Because amefunza miaka mingi.
na hiyo content
Tabu moja.
akadilishi. You see now even the trainers have to also refresh themselves to what is new to the economy as it is.
All right. I want us to do a little bit of traffic updates. Then when we come back, let's continue this conversation about police reforms, the brutality. We're going to be touching on that as well. But for now, let's see which roads are passable, which ones are blocked.
Traffic.
All right, let's take a look at Ngong Road. Ngong Road, there's nothing to complain about. It's what, 32 minutes past 7 o'clock. You guys are moving fantastico, going all the way coming from, where is this? Coming from Lenana High School as you're heading towards the Nairobi CBD. Things are looking good for you guys. However, as you're approaching Community, that is where things become thicker as you guys are trying to pour into Nairobi. Then there's Outer Ring Road. If you're commuting on Mumias South Road, getting on to Outer Ring Road, there it is bumper to bumper. Even as you're trying to get into the underpass and back onto Outer Ring, it's definitely bumper to bumper, especially if you're heading towards Thika Road. So if you can avoid that area, good for you. Kangundo Road, that roundabout joining Outer Ring Road, nothing to complain about. So if you're heading towards Allsops, things are looking good for you. Then last but not least, if you're on where is this? I'm looking for Mombasa Road. Yes, Mombasa Road. If you're driving from Mololongo heading into town, there's a little bit of traffic as you're approaching 3D's hotel. But after that, it opens up. The next snarl up you find is at Cabanas as you're trying to get into Imara Daima. But after that, things are all good until you get to Nyayo, where things are kind of thick for you.
Okay, all the way from Donholm, people using Jogoo Road, as you approach town around City Stadium, through Lantis Road, there is a very big traffic, by the way. I know, it's almost, it's just a few minutes to 8, and I just know everybody is on the road. Also, all the way from Thika Road, just around Pangani area, all through to town, that place, naona tu like, hakuna hata space. Kila magari yanafuatana kweli kweli, so just be aware of that traffic all the way to Mombasa. Lights Kengeleni kwa sasa pia naambiwa hali si hali, things are not quite good, but ni kwamba zinasonga, magari yanasonga. Yeah, that is the beautiful thing. Likoni Ferry, everything is quite okay.
Traffic on Radio Generation.
All right, that is your update as far as the traffic is concerned. James ananiuliza Mbuvi utatupatia update ya Garissa leo? Of course, do stand by. That one I shall give you at 8:30 o'clock. But right now, we are with my former deputy presidential candidate with the Roots Party. She's here to talk about the happenings in our country currently as far as our protests are concerned, the demos, and of course the police brutality that we should avoid at all times. Justina, there is this thing that has been mentioned by a couple of leaders,
yes,
even youth leaders as well. On Wednesday, that is 25th of June, they want to go back to the streets and continue with, just telling the government that they are very unhappy with some of the things that are happening, and of course just in remembrance of the lives that were lost on June 25th last year. One thing that we have seen is voices from different quarters saying that this particular protest is going to be very different. We have people who are saying that they are going to come out in the streets, protect their businesses. Kuna wengine wamesema watajileta from other parts of the country just to come and join the protest. Whether they have good intentions or not, I guess we shall find out on that particular day. But what is your prediction as far as that day is concerned?
Okay, I think the demonstrations are the peaceful demonstrations are in order, but what worries me is the fact that they're saying they're going to state. Some are saying they're going to State House to remove the president from there. I'm not usually someone who supports anything that is not constitutional. I've always argued that let's wait for 2027. Let us plan ourselves. Let us register as voters. Be an agent of a political party you support to protect your vote. So I think if they dare go to State House, it might happen to what happened in Parliament last time when people were shot. But if it's about commemorating the lives lost about last year, that is fine. So my prediction is I'm sure goons will show up. At one point, goons will be brought by the ones who bring goons, and then itakuwa tu kimbi as they always say.
You've mentioned the Constitution and the way we need to adhere to what is enshrined in that particular document. Yes, fine. People want to go to State House and do what they want to do. But in your opinion, do you think even if we wanted, really, we can get to that point? I think sometimes Kenyans are all talk, but ikifika wakati wa action, it's either we are afraid or something else happens there in the middle.
If they went to Parliament last time, I feel
that's Parliament.
this is State House, a protected area.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. Anyone who is inciting, because even most people who incite on social media, you don't see them on the ground. So I feel like if you really care about yourself, just let's focus about commemorating the lives lost last year. But if someone threatens or dares tells you to go to State House, I feel like you might lose your life. And maybe even at that age, I urge parents to talk to their children. Just tell them, just do the right thing. Don't be incited. Don't be forced to go to State House, and then something happens to you. Because at the end of it all, when you lose your life, it's your parents who lose you, not you. But one thing I know, if people will come out, to protect their businesses. That's a fact. But I think as long as nobody's touching someone's business, there won't be issues. But I'm sure the goons will be brought, like they were brought last time.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
So how should we deal with this whole goon issue? Because every single time tukisema tutafanya maandamano, Wakenya wakisema wataenda kwa streets, kuna tu Wakenya wengine hutokezea tu mahali na wanaamua they'll just scuttle the entire process. Like, what is the solution? Because Triciah and I were saying that perhaps we need to have a conversation with the police, with the county government administration through Governor Sakaja, and then have a conversation with even the people organizing the protests, the likes of the activists like Boniface Mwangi and everyone else involved in that situation. Is it possible to sit down and say, okay guys, we are planning this protest on the 25th, and what is expected of us as protesters, what is expected of you as the cops, and then what is expected of you as county government, so that now we can be in tandem, not to agree that on that day, if anyone steps out of the bounds that we have discussed, then we're going to have a problem.
One thing we need to realize, when you look at the structure of economic democracy, political parties maximize on votes. When we say votes, Governor Sakaja, he's being mentioned that he's the one who brought the goons, but he said it's not him. Whoever who brought the goons as a politician is trying to maximize on votes. How? These guys will come, even if he gives them 1,000 bob, guys will say he's given us an opportunity. It doesn't matter what opportunity it was. The conversation is important, but I think engaging these people. How about government focus on returning kazi mtaani? And that time people used to be very busy. When there was kazi mtaani, I doubt there was this idle mind of, from iko wapi ya vita. Guys were cleaning up the county around, walikuwa wana unclog rivers. So government should focus on policies and legislations that engage people, so that idleness iishe. Fact, they not employ everyone, but the majority of people will be absorbed. So someone will say, ikose kazi juu ya kwenda kuchukua 1,000, they will not. So it's important that everyone is engaged, everyone does something. It doesn't matter, though I don't really support when they say kazi mtaani, ama kazi kwa kijana, it's always kazi za mkono. And I always argue that where we are as a country, most of us have gone to university. So you tell someone ende Mjengo, like Gachagua and told people to go to Mjengo during graduation. What happens to the real Mjengo guy? Are you getting? Yeah. So the real Mjengo guy is thrown out because of this graduate. It's supposed to focus on our economy, that even these professionals, even these guys who've gone to university can get those jobs that are white collar because, hey, si walisoma. So it's about policies and legislations that create opportunities for everyone. Whether you've gone to school or not, somehow you are engaged.
But if I really wanted to hire goons,
yes,
whether there's kazi mtaani or pesa mfukoni or whatever slogans they usually put up, if I really wanted to hire goons, you want to tell me that I cannot find some random people who are just idle somewhere? Because even with kazi mtaani, not everyone got that opportunity. Exactly. So if I'm a politician or a business person and I really wanted to hire goons, I think I'll find goons anywhere in this country.
You will, because remember, as a politician, you want to maximize on votes. You have those people who will say yes, and itupatie opportunity. But you as a goon, if you who is allowing yourself to be a goon, you allow yourself to be a goon. If you had something that you're losing, if you had I have a shop somewhere, what drives Kenyans right now is the fact that you have nothing to lose. You live hand to mouth. Sometimes you don't eat. So that opportunity ya kwenda kuwa goon kupigana is an opportunity for you. So if really our focus is that for the next 60 years we want everyone to pull their weight towards building this country, then everyone should be engaged. And that is where the failure comes. Even when the government is telling us, we cannot collect revenue that is enough, because not all of us are paying taxes. And sikukata is the fact that you're not even in the tax bracket. So what they should be focusing on, and I remember when this government came, people were happy Mama Mbogas will be doing their thing, but now things have changed. When you look at even Mama Mboga, their children are struggling. Maybe they've gone to university, but they don't have jobs. So the focus should be making sure everyone is engaged. And then another thing, electing people who are focused even. I doubt if Polly Kapigathe was the governor, these behaviors won't be there. This one's of getting people to be good. So again, let's focus on professionalism.
But the governor, alisomea Teams University, so he's learned.
Alisomea, but you know what they say. So
there's something that you said about the young people, and like a picture came in my mind that, do you mean all these young people that we saw on the roads, they are all jobless?
The peaceful protesters and the
yes
they are. Explain to me how on a weekday a politician, like when the president was going to when he was doing the Nairobi tour, all those people, what were those people doing? All this you're not busy. When you're doing something, even when you're here and you hear the president, you won't switch off the radio to go listen to the president. Utauliza ba alikuwa anasema nini. All these people are going there because they are jobless. They have nothing to do. Again, it's not even about a job, even the opportunity of running a business. Maybe these people are tailors somewhere, maybe they were shopkeepers, but they no longer, the economy is not sustaining business, so they have closed down. So all these people, I believe, they have no engagement. Let's not say jobless. They have no engagement that is meaningful in money making.
I'm of the opinion that we need to do some more civic education to the public, so that even if nimeketi pale mtaani sina kitu ya kudu, hata kama niko kwa base yangu ya jaba and someone comes and tells me, Mbuvi, here's 2,000 bob, I will go cause some fracas in Tao, I'll be like, no, I won't come.
Mbuvi wezi kata. Unakula jaba mchana and then you're given 2K. No.
In the chill too, then I'm told, Niaji, changamuka, enda pale mlolongo cause chaos. I think if Kenyans just understood, and it's like you've said, maybe because they do not have a business, they don't understand the meaning of destroying one. But even if you don't have, if you're just taught that, you need to protect your brother's business or your sister's business, chances are, and also we just explain to them the whole, because some of them, to be honest, I feel like they do not understand the gravity of some of the actions that they do. Because fine, you'll be given 2Gs right now, go to Tao, go to Mombasa Road, pelt stones to some cars. They don't understand the gravity of their action. And I feel like that is what is missing. There's like a disconnect where we're just not speaking to Kenyans to just instill empathy, for lack of a better word.
Mbuvi, let me tell you, even if we do civic education and that day you're promised 2K and you're sure utakula 2K vizuri,
nitachukua thao yako 2 na sitarusha mawe.
Okay, sawa. But unaona ukikuwa engaged, and that's why I said when you look at demand and supply, there is an over demand for jobs, but the supply for the jobs is kidogo. That's where now shortage comes in. How I wish that we had a place where if demand and supply is equilibrium, they're equal, or the supply for jobs is more. I'm telling you, watu wanakuwa na working shifts. Ayo jaba unakula, you don't even have the time to eat that jaba. Are you going to be called by someone atikuja kule uchukwe 2K? So I think it goes to the fact that even if how am I protecting my brother's business and I don't have a business, me, what is in it for me? See, I just take the 2K. So I think what fails us as a country, our relationship with money starts when you are very old. Unaona sasa, if you're in high school, you're given pocket money, so you don't know the sweat for the money. But uko maju, people work at those cheap places,
the stores,
since you're young, you know that this money, how to relate with money. So as due to the fact that our economy is not sustaining jobs, and then you finish school, you're still at home, you're not handling money. Our relationship with money we have no awareness with our relationship with money. So when it comes to, you're given 2K, you're focusing on that day, ndakula 2K leo, and then why you protect your brother's business, why it's not mine. So it should come to a point that we know that I have something to lose. It should come to a point, I have something to lose, so I will not destroy my brothers. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
But kama umekapo jaba.
So we change it from civic education to financial literacy when we are young.
Okay, that's one. Number 2,
yeah,
allowing opportunities. Not just even changing the trade. It is that literally a 15-year-old is working at a cheap place. They know that I'm getting 3K. They can manage their money. And they know the pain of that 3K.
Yes.
See at raisi. Because even this money that is used to pay goons, it is money that is meant for development, recurrent expenditure. So we are losing out on development because of the goon agenda. That is why I said again, we need to focus on people who are not just there for the role, people who are there for the impact. Yeah, the role is there, but the impact of that role. And that is not the situation. At this point, people say, my tribe, so we forget about umeshimwa. Even you hear Kenyans arguing, umeshimwa anasimama na sisi kwa matanga. If you had your own money as a family, umeshimwa, what is their role? They are coming to support you kwa matanga. You guys would have your own money.
Well, you have reminded me during the demonstrations last year, the protests. I remember MPs wakisema kwamba the Gen Zs are so rich. Do you remember wakisema kwamba these guys are coming in town with Uber, wanakula chips, wako na ma iPhones and so forth. So does it really mean that those Gen Zs wengine wao wako na pesa? Ni ile it is not about pesa, it's about now the leadership. That is what they are against.
When the MPs were saying that, they were feeling scared, they were feeling threatened because that generation are now aware of what is happening politically. That is why that MP was trying to discredit them. But do they have money? Of course, you have your parents' money.
Yeah.
If you're given, your parents give you a tip, so you have money.
Yes.
So utakosaje kwenda na Uber ama kwenda na KFC? The issue was they lost the bigger picture. The issue was this generation, despite the fact that they're from rich families, they have not realized we are aware in terms of politics. Remember a while back, people used to say poor people are the ones who vote. Now even the wealthy ones have realized the power of your vote, because you're voting for this person to influence policies that will add value or make life easier for you. So that is what they should have learned. But for them, as usual, they watered down the whole situation.
There was a picture last week that was circulating of this ID that has, or other IDs that have the same face, different names. I'm sure you saw it.
Yes.
And in one of the comment sections that the pictures were shared, a Kenyan said, "Nijipate 2027 nikivote," because they believe that it has already been rigged in advance. The leader has already been decided, or rather, the winner has already been decided. So why struggle? What would you tell that Kenyan?
I've been in politics actively 2 elections, and I'll tell Kenyans, when that narrative is what politicians want you to carry. These days with the Maina Kiai case, that it's called a polling station where you vote, Mbuvi where you stand, that Mbuvi, you're only 700 of you. And mukimaliza hiyo 700 mukimaliza, that polling station inafungwa. So one, they need to realize that the 700 of you, that's a polling station. It is very easy to count 700 votes. The role they should do is wake up early, vote. Number 2, register yourself as party agents, so that when the ballot papers are being counted, you're there. volunteer. You know, one thing that people say, elections are stolen, and I will assure Kenyans, I have always argued that Kenya Kwanza won fair and square, because that day they were counting well. Everything happened on the ground at the polling station. Even the people say, oh, Kamago you intercepted. That's a lie. If we take a photo here and you send it to my phone, where will Kamago come into all that? So I want to tell Kenyans, the law is already clear. Just go and vote, but volunteer yourself as an agent, so that even that presiding officer, if he writes something wrong on that form 34A, you're sure you are there, you heard how they counted. You're going to dispute, and they're going to count 700 ballot papers. See mingi sana, and remember, not everyone, that's the maximum, but of course not everyone will vote. So I want to encourage you. That is a narrative they've always told us for a very long time, but now please go and vote. Your vote is what that will remove this bad leadership. But if you don't vote,
hold on, 700 what? That is what the maximum polling station.
Yeah, you see now, when we go to vote, see there are queues A, B, C, D. If it's B, there are only 700 people who are allowed to vote on that particular vote, that line. Unani your queue. Ya watu B. Inakwanga only 700 people. If you're B, so maybe you're Brian, BR, you're only 700 of you. So ikiruka inenda BR ingine, ikipita 700 inenda BR next polling. Yes. And those ones are counted as polling stations. Those queues we vote.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's how it is.
Okay.
So that so that it makes counting easy. And remember, when they close the polling, the polling center at 6 at 5:30, they close at 6.
Yes.
Yeah. They take a break kidogo, then counting maybe starts at 7. If things are done well by 9, that you're done with the 700, and you know what has been registered and what has been sent to Bomas of Kenya. Though the argument again is that let's finish everything at the polling station, polling center, which is fine. But I want to encourage Kenyans and the youth, usikufe moyo. They're just trying to discourage you, and then we start saying the 8 million of you who didn't vote are the reason we are here. Remember that 2022 we are saying 8 million people.
Yes.
So just make sure you avail yourself, join a political party that you want, volunteer to be a party agent so that you can protect your vote. Despite, in addition to voting, please protect your vote as a party agent.
Yeah.
Okay, according to what you said,
yes.
Do you believe that election in Kenya is free and fair?
As it is free and fair. The only difference comes in when they bring violence. Ama hapo nje you hear people tulipewa 500 to vote. But even at issuing ballot stuffing, it is not possible. It is not. At this point, it is not.
But we've seen cases of Mara ballot boxes were found where others were being
2022 was it? Were the cases there?
No, well, I'm speaking about at least for the cases we've had even in the previous years. You know, just because they've missed in one election cycle doesn't mean that, you know, but we've heard of those stories.
It means we have changed because we are using a new law. The only thing that the fairness will not be there if is voter bribery hapo nje, of course, and they don't bribe you there, watakungojea pale kwa kona.
Yes.
There is violence.
Maybe this is before or after you get to the station?
That is before
you get.
It's just upon the fairness inapotea before, because you know when you're leaving your house, I'm sure I'm voting for Justina.
Yes.
Then you go get someone there, Mbuvi, and Wayua, someone gives you 500, you vote for. So that's how unakuwa confused. That is where the fairness doesn't come in. But at the polling center, the new law and what IBC has been doing, I feel that things are done the right way. At the polling center, that things are done the right way. Okay. Sadly, again, you hear people are saying, pesa agency likuliwa. Again, if you're expecting to be paid as an agent, then clearly you're going to be compromised. So even wakisema tuibie huyu, you'll agree. So how dedicated are you as a Kenyan, as a party agent, to protect the vote? So that is where the unfairness comes in. But in terms of law, things are uptight.
Well, before we get to the proposed police reforms that the CS just announced the other day, during your time, okay, you have been pushing for the transfer of the management of police cells to the prisons service.
Or at least the prison wardens to protect the cells.
Yes, and we have seen what has happened just the other day about Albert Ojwang, who lost his life while he was at the custody of the police. Yes. Maybe would you tell us in a real situation how this would work?
Prison wardens are part of the police structure.
Yes.
I feel like once the police's role is to go and arrest and the ACI's role is to investigate, then it's for purposes of transparency and accountability. Those ones are investigated, these ones are arrested. Let them, if you're in custody, let the prison warden handle you. Remember, these ones are trained in terms of handling inmates.
Yes.
I don't think we've had a very serious case apart from Kingongo of someone dying in is it called remand?
Remand, yes.
We've not had a serious case. I think that comes to the professionalism of prison warders. They know how to handle inmates or to deal with them. Of course, there is the issue of bribery and corruption inside there, but I think they are better suited to handle someone in custody than the police, whose role, again, I said, in Kiganjo, you just thought maybe kuandika yo OB. These are the things they take to court. So them handling an inmate.
If they could get to the late Albert Ojwang,
yes,
while in police custody,
yes,
at Central Police Station, if it is true what we have read in the papers and the witness statements that we're hearing, why would it be difficult for them to get to him, even if or any other Kenyan for that matter, if they were under the protection of the prison service?
I feel like since we've not had many incidences of at the prison, having incidences of people dying in prison, then these ones are handling things in terms of a professional way. So let the ones who are trained to handle prisoners handle prisoners. Let the police handle the investigative bit and arresting bit. Then the ones who are whose profession is to handle people in custody, let them handle that. But again, you see, there was interest in Albert Ojwang's issue. There was interest from those people who had interest with him. So it comes again to professionalism. How are we handling this? As a senior cop, as a politician, where was it that Uhuru left social media? He said, mimi nakosa kulala. If you feel you're in a position where you're threatened or Kenyans are abusing you, then just leave social media. Don't read anything they're saying about you. And don't even encourage people. In fact, even if people come to tell me, I tell them I can read for myself, but I'm not reading. I choose not to read. So don't read things and then you're using your position to revenge on that person. So for Albert Ojwang, it was a isolated case because there was interest in what he said.
So practically, would you suggest that they will be getting the prison warders to the police station, or is that if you've been arrested, you are taken direct to the prison custody,
so that we can create more employment? Let's have the prison warders at the police cells or something else. If the DCA have arrested you, let them have their own cells and these others have their own cells. We separate so that we know accountability. Who's prisoner whose person is in custody, who is handling this? Remember, they were saying, they were DCI, then he was brought to Central. You see now from DCI to General Duty Police. You see that there's confusion.
The stories kept on changing.
So you don't know who's Albert alikuwa wa nani at that point. Albert was in whose hands? Because from DCI to General Duties, then he's died in the hands of police officers. So if maybe there was the prison warden and if it was official that he has been arrested, then if Ojwang was to be removed from this cell, then there was that scale of, you're calling the big boss to report that we are not tolerable. But you see now, the fact that they're doing things wenyewe kwa wenyewe, it lacks the purpose of accountability and transparency. That's why when you are confused, Albert alikuwa wa nani at that point.
So it's all about chain of custody. And so we were just trying to allude. Because at the end of the day, I feel like if I want to get to you and I'm in that position of power, assuming that the person that got to Albert Ojwang was in that position of power, I feel like it will still happen regardless of who is in charge, whether it's the prisons, whether it's the forest service, whatever, because as a superior, I can get to you at any one point. So I feel like this is one of those stories where heads have to roll so we can have like proper punishments for those individuals. Ndio hata mimi nikiwa in a position of power tomorrow, Justina, I don't get to you because I know there are consequences to that.
Another thing I learned, you see, when you look at the history of where Ojwang was arrested, because he mentioned someone was making 100 million. If at all that was the case, how are you making 100 million and you're in charge? That's why even I've been thinking of something else, a different proposal. Why can't we outsource the whole HR management of the police? We outsource it to a professional body who will do the training, who will do the promotions. Again, cops have bitter. There are cops who say, yes, I'm a cop. I've been in this rank for many years, but mtoto mdogo amekuja because they have influence. They have been promoted. Are you getting? So everyone has their own frustrations. You do so well, but you're never recognized. Young kids come because they have influence. Wanakupita, wanapata more mawes than you. So if you outsource the HR operations of the police, that's from recruitment, training, the right people. From the word go, we have the right people who are recruited, the right people who are trained, people with passion, promotions, salaries zao, skills review. Tunafanya promotions. And then EHR, it's not even a private company. What we do, we open it up for even Kenyans to buy shares there. So that even you, as a Kenyan, you know that company is trading on,
Yes.
on the Nairobi Stock Exchange.
Yes.
So unacheza na shares zako. That is where they're going to increase their funding. You know, again, police say they're underfunded.
Yes.
They're going to increase their funding on how to even get those.
Isn't that like
technology.
privatizing to some extent?
And
the
actually,
police
it is
service?
something that you suggested just the other day, privatizing the
Yes.
police service.
But you're privatizing to Kenyans. It's not that you're Nadani or someone who's coming. See, you can ask Kenyans, we want to invest in this thing. So even the cops are handling you. They're handling you as an owner. You know, they don't know whether you have shares, but you know the respect is
You could
coming.
be a board member.
Yes, I'm working for this Kenyan citizen.
You know what? Let's take a short break,
Yes.
listen to the news. Then when we come back, of course, we'll be taking some of your feedback. If you haven't sent that, remember, you can find us on our WhatsApp group, which is already on our social media pages. You can find us at Radio Gen KE across all of them.
This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. The NCCK General Secretary Canon Chris Kenyanjui has expressed concerns over the rising violence in the country, emphasizing the need to protect young people and avoid further bloodshed. He called for justice for those who have lost their lives and urged the government to compensate the affected families. He said that the church will continue to stand in solidarity with all Kenyans. This comes as the country faces heightened political tension fueled by youth-led protests.
We came here, prayed together, brought the families together to wipe their tears, and we have been supporting them over 1 year now. And we came back here because, again, we fear that this could happen again. We have tremendous fear that the state has not learned from the violence that was there in 2023, where again another 60 young people are lost. 2024, another 60 young people are killed. And
the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, has threatened to go on strike over stalled negotiation on the upcoming 2025-2029 Collective Bargaining Agreement, CBA. The union says it has officially lodged a dispute with the Ministry of Labour against the Teachers Service Commission. The union has issued a stern warning of a nationwide strike if talks do not commence within the next week. KUPPET Secretary General Akelo Misori expressed frustration over what he termed as TSC's reluctance to engage meaningfully. 70 Kenyans are being held in prisons across India and 2 others in Nepal over drug trafficking offences. This is according to the Kenya High Commission in New Delhi. The High Commission has now raised concerns over the growing number of cases involving vulnerable citizens lured into criminal syndicates. The embassy says new assets are reported every month, mostly involving unemployed individuals who are tricked with false promises of jobs abroad, only to end up in foreign jails under strict anti-narcotics laws. The mission revealed that the detainees aged between their early 20s and 60s were recruited by traffickers operating in Kenya. KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli has called for expansion of Nairobi into protected areas, including Nairobi National Park, citing rapid population growth. He argued that there is a need to sacrifice some establishments, such as parks and forests, for economic growth and decongestion of the city. The KOTU boss was reacting to a report by NTV showing that current residents have rejected a railway project it will have on their area's ecosystem and ecology.
You can't say I'm keeping this tree here when development is taking place. The population of Nairobi is growing. When we were young people in Nairobi, we were about 200,000 people only in the city of Nairobi. Now Nairobi hosts almost 15 million people. And it cannot be continued to be the same. Even the national park, the Nairobi park, where we have animals and so on, it must be used to develop Nairobi. We need a new Nairobi with wide roads. We need a new Nairobi with facilities. We need Nairobi with proper industrial park.
Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola says his club will have to sell players this summer for their own good. The Premier League side brought in several players ahead of the Club World Cup, leaving Guardiola with a large squad, which he says will have to be trimmed for the sake of easier squad management. Midfielders Jack Grealish and Ilkay Gundogan have been linked with moves elsewhere in recent days, and with the likes of Kevin De Bruyne having also exited. Guardiola said he did not know anything about the departures for now, but admitted several players will have to be sold. That's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga.
In the beginning, there was morning radio. But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast. Curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
It is 5 minutes past 8 o'clock. This is Radio Generation. And my name is Mungala Mbuvi. Right now, though, it's time for that morning conversation. We're having it with Justina Wamai, former deputy presidential candidate with the Roots Party. And we shall be getting into that conversation, by the way, shortly. Atuambie what is the, promise for the future as far as her ambitions are concerned. But for now, let's stick to the conversation around police brutality, which obviously has been a thorn in the side of many Kenyans. We have seen people losing their lives over and over, and we were hoping at one point, things would change. But that is still ongoing. She left off the conversation saying that perhaps we need to outsource part of the police recruitment, which is actually the HR part, to the public, so that we can have a little bit more control. So Justina, maybe you can elaborate what you meant by that, because I'm thinking this is an arm of the government or the executive, or it's a very important department that we cannot just decide to either divide it or put it in the wrong hands. So when you say we privatize the HR arm of the police service, what exactly do you mean?
Remember, I always give a background. I said politicians maximize on votes, and voters want to maximize on utility. Utility is the benefits Kenyans are getting by having this particular government. Police brutality is not a utility. Of course, you're not benefiting out of it. But remember, there are many police who are genuine, who are professional, but these are people who are rarely even promoted because they do not know anyone. The fact that if we want to bring professionalism to the police department, then we should outsource it to people who know how to run a HR department. Remember, Safaricom is 35% government. What I'm saying that we just outsource the HR bit of the police in terms of the command and all that. That is vested in government. That is the government's share in that business. So that when it comes to recruitment, they recruit the right people. When it comes to personal development, they do the personal development. And even in terms of innovation, in terms of funding. Remember, when even it's the company is outsourced and it is on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, you'll be buying shares there, up and apale, trading.
As a Kenyan.
Yeah, as a Kenyan. They get funding. So even this cop, when he's dealing with you, he's dealing with that owner of business because he doesn't know whether you're part of it or not. For me, I'm looking out for the professionalism. I'm looking out for management even of the police insurance, management of the police pension. Maybe when cops come and demand a huge bribe from you, they're not certain about their future, about when they retire. So they're trying to amass as much as possible because our due whether the pension is safe or not. So if we handle all that, from HR is handled by a private people who know private, and I say private, I mean Kenyans. When they say privatize, it's not an Adani coming here. Even as you have money, it's only that Kenyans do not want to put their money in government because they don't trust them. But if you give Kenyans that option, I believe things will be different in terms of professionalism. And again, they're called corporate governance. The police will work according to the requirement, and even the corporate culture will change.
What if a big company, a multinational company, like G4S is multinational, Wells Fargo is multinational. What if they just come and say, what, now we have an opportunity, and they buy a majority stake, and then now our police HR department is now controlled by one of those private companies?
Now that's where regulation will come in, and that's why I insisted that even if they're buying, government still has
a Kenyan one.
Yes, it's a Kenyan one. Government still has a stake in it in terms of regulation, in terms of policy, because what we want them is to handle HR, the training, the pensions, the professional, it's called continuous professional development. That is what we want. And then to also train our people na mambo ya kisasa. They are trained, they feel like it's more colonial. It's not up to date with what is happening.
So does it mean the government by itself, it can't do that?
I'm telling you, it can't.
Because we actually own the police service because we pay taxes. directly to their salaries.
Government cannot, because I said they want to maximize, politicians want to maximize on votes. When Justina is president, she will pick everyone from their village to join the police. You see that? Is it true? Because I want my people to say akikuwa huko alitusaidia. So it is as a politician, it is my nature to bring everyone aingie polisi. But are they bringing the professionalism? Do they even have the passion to be police? That is why government has to offload some of its roles, so that if we focus mainly on regulation and policy, because I feel like the government has too much, government is paying too much salaries, yani everything is not coordinated, because you are dealing with something big. So as it is, government cannot. Yes, we are paying taxes, but when there's ownership from the Kenyans, now even say I'm paying taxes, but even maybe I'm not paying, but I feel like I'm paying taxes. It's an issue of deliberate ownership, so that even we create more opportunities. Remember, it's about increasing the participatory rate of Kenyans. Say most of us are home, but when this HR firm comes in, these ones who know how to manage, they look even for where there are gaps. So that even when you're training, this is a data, we need to be data driven, so that they identify there are gaps in this sector of the police. Even when training comes at our primary, already the statistics are showing. So for the next 20 years, we need investigators, we need forensic people, we need lab people. So that is information that even goes back to our education system. How do we calibrate our curriculum to make people read what is making sense? Remember, these days people tell you to kwani ulisoma kosa ina market, because now ndio umesoma, but out there is no job. So if we are data driven, they'll tell us, no, we have a gap in this, so we'll start training people in that line. As time goes, to change with time. So I feel professionals should handle the HR department.
Is this something that has been tried before elsewhere in the world, Justina? Is this something like, is there a blueprint? We can just say it happened in Malta or it happened in Seychelles. So we can say if it happened there, like right now we are borrowing something from India about the payment integration system. We are doing it because they have done it, it has worked, and it is working perfectly well. So we can take that. But is this something that has happened anywhere else in the country, in the world, that you probably saw? By then, mbona tusifanye kama watu wa Uganda?
Mbuvi necessarily not have to copy anybody. Me, I want to tell the politics I'm doing is trying to show Kenyans we can lead. Let other countries start saying, hey, Kenya has done it. I want us to start. That is the focus. I want Kenyans to be asked, what is your key competency? And we can explain, this is what we've achieved. How comes we are here, people are learning, people are well read, but we don't do anything? Where I'm focusing on this country is that the next 10 years, 60 years, people will say, we borrowed this from Kenya. Let people come to Kenya for benchmarking. So it hasn't been done, but we can do it. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it can be done by the way.
It sounds good on paper.
Yes.
Theoretically speaking, it's an absolutely brilliant idea. But when it comes to implementing,
we will do it.
Because Kenyans have got an issue, especially when government decides to privatize things. You mentioned quite frankly about the Adani situation.
Yes.
What if that happens with our police service? I'm feeling that we might end up gambling or biting off too much than we can even chew, and find ourselves in a conundrum, and we're like, oops.
When you listen to Kenyans, they didn't have an issue with the upgrade of the airport. They had an issue with the fact that someone from India was coming to handle it. Maybe if Kenyans were given the opportunity to own, we would not have an issue. And that's why I'm saying these things must be Kenyan led. And when we ask, what is your key competence? You as a Kenyan, what have you achieved? Let it be that Kenyans, their money, the money, the company they invested in upgraded the airport. You will feel, yes, I put in my 30 Gs there, and you're seeing progress. But as it is, the issue with Kenyans have is, you're told a private company, even Aurora and Kimwarer, we were told it was an Italian company. Were Kenyans given the opportunity to invest? Who says we don't have money? Maybe Kenyans are just hiding money under their mattress because of the economic situation. But when an opportunity comes through and they're trustworthy and they trust the government, they'll give their money. So the difference is that Adani was someone who was not Kenyan, Kimwarere was not Kenyan. But if Kenyans are given an opportunity for them to own, remember they oversubscribed the Safaricom shares.
Yes.
Why? They felt we are owning this thing. And I think many Kenyans have never regretted. Kengen, they oversubscribed because the opportunity was presented to Kenyans.
Actually, they get money till date.
That's the thing.
Yes. Actually, still on the private partnerships.
Yeah.
Don't you think at the airport, the port at Mombasa, if maybe we are getting people who are people who are morally upright, that is hata kama si Mkenya. Is it bad tukiwapatia?
I feel kama anapewa, for example, let me use the late Bob Collymore, the late Michael Joseph. You see, they brought their expertise.
Yes.
Who owns Safaricom? Remember, 35% government, and then the other one for Vodafone, and then there's a percentage where
Yes,
the Kenyan shares come in. So I feel that wanaweza pewa, but where are they being given? Is it where they can have a hostile takeover? Those are the modalities that come when you're drawing up the contracts. You need to protect the country. At the end of it all, when USA at America first, even us, we're supposed to be thinking Kenya first. What is our interest when you're coming to meet as partners?
But there's actually something called Kenya Kwanza.
Not also.
No, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Yes.
It's about interest. What is our interest? And again, that's why I always insist. Our foreign policy should not say, we should be saying, oh, I'm focusing on the East. No, let us focus with like-minded countries where our interests are met. You need this, we need this. That's why we are working. But issue of, I'm facing is, it doesn't work in today's day and age. Our focus should be, what is our interest? What are we benefiting from? Because I feel most of these contracts, like ask a Kenyan today, how are you benefiting from AGOA? A Kenyan on the street, they know there is AGOA. Yes, you take your things to textile to yes, but do they really relate to AGOA? They don't.
Yeah. So
we need to focus on even the impact. That is why even you see World Bank telling us, oh, the economy is growing, and Kenyans are like, growing
where?
Where? We fail to relate because our interests are not met.
Okay, what do you have to say about the economy of Kenya? The other day, the president was saying that we are really doing good. Most of the time, we've talked over the GDP of the country doing quite well. But when you come kwa grao, things are quite just tofauti sana. Things are so different. What do you have to say about that?
That's why I said we need to, one, this economy has to be data driven. Number two, we really need to separate Treasury, the Ministry of Finance, and then also from, it should be seen like it's a political angle. And even Kenya Bureau of Statistics, KIPRA, those people need to be elevated and they need to be independent. So that when they're collecting data that is real, that is Kenyans are telling them. But you see, I think they're underfunded. So they don't really go out on the ground to collect the data that is on the ground. And that is why when the president says that the economy is doing well, everyone on the ground is asking where. They're not feeling it. So things like KIPRA, Kenya Bureau of Statistics, they need to be well funded.
Yeah.
Because when they collect the data, that is the data that is driving policy and legislation. So as it is now, the economy is not working, but from where he sits, it is working.
But according to you, because obviously you're better placed to evaluate, do you think things are getting better?
No, they are worse. Let me tell you, the business I do is not basic, it's not food, but people want to build houses, you want to construct a flat. People are no longer doing it. Construction has stalled. Even when you go to banks right now, people are not picking loans for construction. Even banks are saying their construction sector has gone down because you cannot buy a lorry. If you go buy a lorry now, of course, you're going to be auctioned. You can't buy a machine. You're not picking a mortgage now to build. Even banks are not approving because they are looking at repayment. And then it's going to be an unperforming loan. So as it is now, we are only working on a subsistence economy where people are buying food. Even as someone will tell you, the best business now is food related. Even clothes, people are not buying clothes. And is that the economy we want? That it's just subsistent, what we are eating? No. We need to focus ahead. So the economy is not working.
Yeah.
So is it right to say that, yes, in Kenya we have money, but it is in a few people's hands?
Yes, it is not circulating.
Because even the other day we were just doing some statistics here of how many Kenyans in our country are employed and earn above 100,000.
And they were just a little under 400,000.
Imagine, out of that population of the whole country,
55 million Kenyans.
Yeah, less than.
And then they're the ones who are overtaxed. And you see, government was supposed to increase the tax base. And that's why I say, even by outsourcing the HR bit of it, they're going to know they're going to structure the police sector, right? When they structure, they'll know that we have this police here, we need more. You know, as it is now, it's ambiguous. People are just picked, your father is in traffic, you become a traffic cop. Do you need all those ones? Maybe they can be even taken to another area. So when we balance the HR, we know what we need. And I'm sure once things are balanced, once things are in order, we are going to even there'll be need to recruit more. In terms of
police officers.
Yes, maybe
because currently it's like one officer for every 1,000 Kenyans, I think.
Now you see.
Yeah.
Because when there's a lot of wastage in how they operate, maybe that money can be put into good use and goes into even recruitment. So we get in those professionalism. I always look at our police and they compare to these CSI things we watch.
Yes.
Really, are we there? No, we are not. And we need to be there.
What if we, instead of outsourcing.
Yes.
Because I feel like that would be a very long process. You know, the legislation has to be put into place, and that might take years. What if just now, we headhunt someone in that HR department that we need? Even if we have to go get them from the US or UK or whatever, Germany, we come get that particular person and we tell him, look, we need you to sort this particular mess. Is that something that can be done as soon as, if we wanted it even before the end of this year?
Remember the corporate culture. Some people are saying like the cartels, the godfathers, the owner of the police, So I think they may be frustrated because whose backing are they getting? So number two, funding is an issue. Maybe they'll want this budget allocation, which government cannot be able to
provide.
It would be a long stretch. Yeah.
So there's no way we can just say, look, Justina Wamai has got this absolutely awesome blueprint of how she thinks this thing can work. And so, Justina, tumekuweka hapo. Sasa wewe fanya na tukupatie all the powers and autonomy that you need, apart from the money part, of course.
Sasa unaona itakuwa issue because funding is an issue. Police funding is an issue.
But the other day we saw they got a good allocation amount. Just the other day when the budget was being done.
How
the 150 million.
Yeah, they've been big.
What do they need? Maybe vis-a-vis what they need.
Yeah. But that was for DCI anyway.
That's DCI and then this other police. That's where you go, you see they have a vehicle, but they don't have fuel. And ukweli they don't have fuel. Ama sometimes when I come to custody, I don't know whether they have food. I don't know whether they serve people. Kuna many issues.
If your person is arrested, we make sure they are fed.
Umpeleke
personally. Because uko ndani hata pewa.
Sasa unaona.
But yeah, there's this other issue, of course, now that you've reminded me, where you even go to a station, you need something as simple as an abstract.
Yes.
You're told, sasa enda pale kwa ile cyber, print hapo nje. Where is it still about funding? Ama that is just grand corruption, where we know that cyber is either owned by one of the cops or the OCS.
Ama you're told that you could withdraw pesa, the bribe you're told to withdraw kwele pesa. Of course they are creating their own
Actually when you're arrested nowadays you're told send it to a specific till number.
Utoele hapo.
Unaona withdraw pesa mahali wajia. And that time you're being arrested in Machakos. But I mean what I'm trying to ask, is it the whole issue of funding? Ama that's now corruption on another level? I think,
okay, the fact that there's a lack of funding means there's a gap, because if they had their own printers, if they had their own their computer, their own cyber section, then it would be printed up. But now you're told to go outside because the gap came. They don't have funding to do this thing. So you're sent to mtu anajaribu ku create employment yake hapo nje. And that is why you see people say it's corruption. But again, there is a need for that cyber. But if things were being done, if they had the funding to do all those things, the paperwork from the police station, then they would be doing it. Na huyo angepata kazi.
Yeah.
This one who's outside, they'll be doing something else.
Because even the OB unaandikwa kwa exercise book. You can throw that paper away thinking it's trash.
And one of the reforms, they say they're going to give a digital OB.
Yeah. They will digitize the OB.
Now, do they even have Wi-Fi inside there? You see, those are the issues. CCTVs. Unaona sasa.
They said they're going to install CCTVs in all 1,200 police stations around the country.
Yes.
But I'm thinking already the one that was existing at Central
was not working.
Failed.
Yes.
What makes us think the other 12,000 will work?
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. When there's someone else handling the HR bit of it, not government. Because you see, like I said, when I'm president, I'll bring people from my village. And maybe the DIG will be from my village. And he has messed or she has messed. I have the burden of protecting. You see, now there ends up being this conflict of interest. I want, as a president, I want the things done right. But mtu wangu amemess, what do I do?
Because you see,
I have to protect them.
At the end of the day, I'm thinking, even if we were to have that perfect HR company, doing all this for us, again, what will protect that company from external influence, from the executive, from the person who is appointing, the DIG or any other IG or the OCS? Because at the end of the day, ule pia ni binadamu. He's made of flesh and blood like you and I. And if, the MPs being influenced in one way or another, Maras do brown envelopes. I mean, we've had all this.
Because remember, when you ask even an MP, why do you take all this money and you're paid a huge salary? They tell you, pesa, it helps me kuingia kwa ground. Kenyans also need to shift. Then you think ati, mheshimiwa anakuja burial, mheshimiwa anakuja hivi, mheshimiwa alitupatia pesa, alitupatia handouts. These handouts are the reason even we are suffering. Because atachukua hiyo brown envelope, sababu anafikiria Saturday I'm going to go this, I'm going on the ground and I need money. what do I do? If Kenyans stopped even asking for those handouts, this MP would not have the pressure to take this extra money. Ama tu unashinda kwa gate yake. There's some MPs who say in the village, when you wake up, people already at your doorstep waiting for handouts. If they also influence policy, people don't need to come to you to omba money for harambe, someone for is in hospital, burial, nini.
School fees.
You see, they don't want us to be independent. They want us to hang around there. They want us to borrow them. They want us to beg them. And that is when even they don't influence policies that make us independent of them.
Then isn't this a vicious cycle whereby the problem starts with me as a voter? Because I have this MP that now I need to keep on begging for school fees and whatever. Then my MP now is compromised because he's broke. He has to get that brown envelope. So he can come back and give me that school fees money that I need. Then now he has got to listen to whoever is in power that he can get that brown envelope.
Or even as a leader, as a waziri, you may be having a good blueprint of what you want to be achieved in that ministry, what you want to be achieved in the country. You have good manifestos. So now you have come. There are people inside there. The so-called the systems, the cartels. I'm just wondering. Sawa, mheshimiwa tumekupatia kura, umeingia pale, but then you find there is a deep-rooted system. Na leo asubuhi tumesema hapa, when you see the systems are broken, there are some people who are benefiting from the broken systems. So now I just want to understand, maybe what do you think
to scale up the conversation in this country?
Yeah.
Even these cartels, when they hear that everyone is talking about professionalism, wataanza kuogopa. Why is it that when Kibaki came, Kenyans used to arrest cops? You know, there's that Kenyans were ahead of even government itself. Kenyans were doing it because they had a vision for it. But if you want it to work, then vote in more people with this vision, so that at least at our cartels, I don't think cartels are more than even, they're not many. It's only that they have power. But if they're dismantled and there are more people who are influencing policy in that direction, they'll join the bandwagon, or even retire, or even resign, because they're feeling it's not tenable to work there.
Yes. Yeah, because now we usually wonder most of the time, you hear this is a minister, ameingia pale, akifika kidogo, anapata scandals ziko pale, trying to fight those scandals, hata ajui kule zilianzia, na ajui, na the moment anatry kufagia, anapelekwa kwingine.
Something that's also, you see, even this HR argument, the whole private public sector. Remember, we can even outsource the whole of it. Yote, the way government ibaki na regulation. Regulation and policies.
Yeah.
Because unakuja unapata, like I said, if I'm president, I'll pick even doctors from my village, people who are not passionate. Unaona sasa, the fact that I have that control or influence, it's human nature. But if this thing is being handled by other professionals, there's no conflict of interest, the right people will join the workforce. Alafu watu wache kusema ati hii ni serikali, tunakujanga 9. You know, even they are monitored how you've got it. This is something that can be done. But now when a politician is left to control, I'll bring my people from the village and everyone else.
All right. So let's do traffic for a second, and then when we'll get back to the conversation, I'd like to know some of the success stories. Yeah, so we can say, if we do this to the police service because nani walifanya hivi na ikafanya kazi, then this is definitely going to be a success.
Traffic.
I am looking at the map of Garissa area right now, and there's nothing to complain as far as traffic is concerned. Watu wa Mororo, naona mko sawa sawa kwa hiyo barabara. Nothing is right now. It's looking okay. Now, if you're coming from where is this? Yes, if you're on Garissa Dadaab Road, coming from Normal Palace, heading all the way to Pefa Church, things are looking fantastic for you. Hatata Primary, joining the main road, that is the Garissa Dadaab Highway, also nothing to complain about as far as traffic is concerned there. And last but not last, there's Lunga Farm. If you're heading towards, where is this? If you're heading towards Madogo, going all the way down to basically the entire road stretching back to Nairobi, things are looking good for you.
Well, and in that is along Thika Road. I see things are quite okay up to until just around near town. That is around Ngara area to town. I think most of the roads, the traffic is not that much at this time, because I understand so many people are already in their offices. They are already at their workplaces. All the way from Jogo Road, I'm also seeing just around, just near town. That is all the way from City Stadium to town. Looking at Kariako area, there is a little bit of a snarl-up. Looking at around Nyayo Stadium also, as you get into town. By the way, you know, it's in the morning and everybody just heading to town, so you expect that there's that a snarl-up as you get to town. Well, Mombasa, lights Kengeleni, I'm being told, okay, kuna traffic kidogo, but things are moving, so that is something to appreciate.
If you're coming from kunitwa Juku hivi Ongata Rongai, heading all the way to Galleria Mall, hapo mtapiga nduru kwa sababu there's that car traffic snarl up at the Nairobi Safari Walk heading all the way to Bomas of Kenya. So yes, there you're going to scream, especially if you are in a hurry. I would suggest you either call in advance and tell them you're not coming, or I don't know, just don't go to work this morning. All right, we are with Justina Wamai, former deputy presidential candidate with the Roots Party. We're talking about police reforms, police brutality, and the direction we need to take. A couple of companies here in Kenya were privatized, and I'll take an example. KCC, for a very long time, you know, belonged to the government, and then at one point it even went down. The government revived it. It was privatized. Would you consider that a success story?
Let's look at Safaricom. On the other hand, it's a success story.
Yeah.
I think it begins with one, the passion of Michael Joseph, two, professionalism. I feel like Kenyans are arguing, not me who feels. Kenyans are arguing when we had Michael Joseph, the late Bob Colimo, things were going correct. But now they're feeling a Kenyan is there, government is accessing their data. But I always tell Kenyans, remember, government owns 35% of Safaricom.
So they have the data either way.
Right?
Yes.
So it depends. Let's look at the success stories. These ones which have failed, we need to also analyze why have they failed. Was it lack of professionalism? Was it vested interest to fail them so that others can thrive? So those are the things that we need to look at as a country.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if we were to decide that this is the direction we shall take,
yes,
which in my opinion, I think that's a long stretch. But if we were to actually go in that particular direction, you are positive that things will take a turn for the better. Like, what amount of time would you give it for us to start seeing like good change? Because let's not forget, we already have police people in force who are probably rogue agents, or they're coming from the old system and so on and so forth. Are we saying that we would give the police to a private company and then we start firing people, or we let the ones who are there retire as we recruit new ones? Because let's remember, one rotten apple can rot the entire batch.
It's about contingency planning and succession planning. Of course, we cannot fire them, but you know, when new rules come, people adhere to the new rules. One thing I feel like in Kenya, it's the fact that there's no consequence. You can do anything and there's no consequence. But if this happens, Kenyans will really, it will change the thing. And you ask for how much time. I want to tell Kenyans, it's not about one presidency. It's not about a 10-year term or 5-year term. It's about one, are Kenyans investing in it? Remember, we need funding. How much money have you put into this that has allowed even the operations to go ahead? Number two, have you voted in people in parliament who buy into this vision, or people who understand what you're doing, or even people who have questions about no, outsourcing is not going to work, can we do strategic alliances, right? We want to, that is why I'm saying we need to scale up the conversation. It's not about one presidency, but what I'll tell Kenyans, if you are to survive the next 60 years, then we cannot be doing what we've been doing the previous 60 years. The world is changing. We need to move with times. We need to do things differently. We need to involve innovation in what we do, because one thing I want the world to always ask, what is Kenya's key competency? And we can be able to answer that. Right now, every woman in Kenya is saying, Korean skin products are the best. And when you look at it, what has Korea done? They have made it, they are saying our skin products are innovative. If even in skin products, people are saying they're innovative, why can't we even look at what is our key competency. And again, we always argue, oh, Kenya doesn't have the natural resources, Kenya doesn't have the land. How about our own skills? It's something we can export. Skilled people, when they're going out there, it's something, see ati kazi ya mkono, house girls. No, you're working from a professional point of view. You're influencing even global policy. So, and that should be our key competency. That's why I'm telling Kenyans, don't focus at one presidency. But again, it can work if there's full support of even how you vote for these other positions, even the county assembly. How are you voting for MCAs? Are they people who are arguing that you can make money this way instead of even going to a salon, munachukua blow dryer somebody because they're not paid for that, they're not paid kanjo. But again, why are they not being able to pay for kanjo? Because there is no business. So even at the county level, how are you influencing policies to allow people in your county to make money, or even inter-county? How are you working together so that even people at the grassroots can make money?
Yeah, so there's this issue also we mentioned last week that Kenyans vote emotionally.
That's the thing.
We're always with the Mutuetu syndrome, demon that has refused to go away. And we always tend to vote for the loudest, the person who's, maligning his or her opponent the most, because we feel like, as long as I know Justina Wamai is bad, and because Triciah has kept on telling me, then I'll vote for Triciah because of that. So when it comes to the voting pattern in this country, do you agree, first of all, we're emotional, and how can we change that?
One, we are very emotional, that's a fact. But I think what should change is the conversations. The conversations we have now, now the ones who is in opposition, he's not telling us Ubaya were the one in government. But when they're asked what is the solution, okay, enough, we know Nimbaya. So what is your alternative? Hakuna, they're not even telling us anything. And that's why Josie told Kenyans, there are those in government, there are those ones in opposition, but they also, like me, who is in the alternative. Because even if there's a problem, I'm also trying to give a solution and saying this is what you can do. If all parties would give their solutions, would scale up the conversation, and even Kenyans would realize, the politicians are saying this, and someone would say this makes sense. But as it is, we are left with what we used to do in 1990s, goons, what. We are not moving with time. So when the conversation changes to things that are making sense, I'm telling you, even the emotional part, Kenyans will start asking, okay, mtu wetu kukua hapo, how am I benefiting? In all honesty, the only benefit you get is when they influence policies and legislations that allow you to thrive. They cannot come to your house to give you food. That is not, even it's not right for them to give you food. As long as you can work for yourself, we increase the participatory rate. If everyone in this country, everyone is engaged, then things will work out. But as it is, as long as the conversations are mundane, we'll continue doing what you're doing.
Well, from your own perspective, why do you think Kenyans will just want to recycle the old politicians? Why do you think Kenyans are afraid of trying new people, new leaders who have good manifestos and people of integrity and so forth? Why do you think they like recycling the old people?
I think one is issue of visibility. If you're new and you come, obviously you've not amassed the money, and then Kenyans were left with the pomp of campaign. Alikuja na magari mingi. You see, we don't even listen at what they're saying. The focus was, this one came with a chopper, this one came with a convoy.
Yeah, actually, I know of a politician who was elected because that in him handsome.
Sasa ona na dimples. And you see, we focus on what matters. We don't focus on the reality or things that are working. But again, it's the disconnect where Kenyans see these people who have these positions are there to help them, na matanga, bursaries. We forget the issue of influencing policies and legislations. We are not there when those policies, shaping policies, we are not focusing on that. For us, ni alikuja akatupatia hii, and that is where these politicians take advantage. But again, we don't blame them. Maybe they are inferior ni wale watu chini in terms of even understanding or focusing on the vision. But and again, these people who have a vision are scared. How many people are saying, I'm working in private sector, I have this information, I have this knowledge, I'll go into politics. People are scared, they're like, politics is dirty. And that is why these others thrive, because unogopa goons, unogopa nini. So one, visibility is an issue. If also media houses would really focus on everyone being given the platform, at least what wataskiza. Because even in my last time, people are saying, you guys have an idea, but mmekuja late. So, but now you know, the people, many Kenyans would say, you've come late, so they've already decided on this other one.
I want to take you back a bit to something you said, just said actually right now, about this whole issue of, if we vote in competent leaders, then development will reach everyone. But we've seen here in Kenya that when we have leadership coming from a specific area, that area will thrive. For a very long time, we even realized that the police force are coming from a certain community because that community was in power. We saw that development was going to specific areas because, again, that community was in power. So that means even, farming and banks, businesses were thriving in those areas. Na nyinyi juu hamko kwa serikali, you're not getting development. And we've seen, even currently, when the president visits a certain area, he goes and opens up a project in that area because that area has decided to support the president. You understand? So it looks like that is the way to go, unfortunately, and that is what Kenyans are seeing, because even politicians in certain areas will say we need to join government, and they'll say this in funerals and weddings. They'll say we need to join government so that hata sisi tukue kwa serikali ndio tupate nini? Tupate maendeleo. It looks like if you're in government in Kenya, things will work for you. If you're not, go to hell.
But now with our new constitution, this county allocation, the revenue allocation, it's given to everyone. I don't think there are counties that no, it's given to everyone. There's also CDF. I think these politicians just try to whip emotions, because once you're given your money, CDF money, you're given, your county is given their budgetary allocation, you're collecting your own source revenue, then I don't think you really need to be in government. So I think the politicians just want to take us back to the old thinking. You see, old order mindset that lazima ukwe kwa serikali, but all this money has been given to counties, irrespective of whether you're in government or not. And that's why I told Kenyans, let's stop focusing on people who are giving us even old examples. Vitu za kitambo. Now let's focus on people who are giving us information that is going to help us going into the next 60 years of independence. So it's what the politicians want us to hear. But they're given money. The question should be, what are you doing with this money?
Yeah.
Now that you've been given money, county allocation, CDF, what are you doing with it? That should be the question. Something else I've always said I'll challenge is the fact that everyone who is in a position of power and has budgetary allocation is doing school feeding programs. But we do not focus on now after school, mtoto atakuwa nakula nini? The kids will be coming back to school to eat? No, we're supposed to make the economy work so that even ukitoka shule, you can feed yourself outside school. But what is the situation? You hear even there are some places, people who are out of school or older than school age go back to school to eat. Meaning the economy has failed.
Yes.
So
you've been tweeting this hashtag a lot, inatuhusu.
Yes.
Maybe utueleze ni nini hii inatuhusu? Inatuhusu vipi?
Inatuhusu came about from the fact that I realized when there was this voter apathy, the 8 million who didn't vote, you'd find them and they're like, me, I'm not seeing the purpose of voting. And why they don't see it is because Kenyans see a politician kama mtu wa handout, mtu wa basari. If you are not getting basari, haikuhusu. Kenyans forget the other aspect, and politicians really amplify the fact that amepeana basari, ameweka tiles kwa shule. So if your kid is not going to a public school, you're not benefiting. So the inatuhusu came that you need to get involved. Either one, joining a political party where you're going to influence policy, because manifestos come from what party members have suggested, so you influence policy. Number 2, you should vote. Number 3, you should get involved as a party agent, because all in all, the role of the elected or appointed politician is to influence policy and legislation. So that's what you're telling Kenyans, inakuhusu.
Yes.
The fact that we need good governance, you shouldn't be talking about it when you're out there. You need to be part of it, so get involved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because again, in terms of we've seen comedians such as Eric Omondi trying to do their level best where they can, and other private citizens who just come together because in our husu. Is it possible now for Kenyans to actually operate, for lack of a better word, outside political circles and still effect change? Because we've seen it with a couple of people, philanthropists out there and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the like of activists who just get in there and try to put their input where it's needed the most. Yeah, so coming out to Husu, are you saying that we forget politicians, we ignore them, tune out the noise and just now work for ourselves as Kenyans?
I'm actually thinking that we should not ignore the politicians. In fact, they should be the key drivers of economic development. We've seen the philanthropies, we've seen all these people who come to help. And that is where the rain started beating us. Because we started feeling that, there is no water, you look for alternative. There are no schools, you look for an alternative. Instead of questioning those ones who are supposed to influence policy to do it. So I feel like they're doing a good job, but it's not sustainable. Where sustainability comes in is from government when they influence policies, because either way people are taxed, they have the money, they have the resources, but if we don't question them, we're not putting them to task, then really there is nothing that they are doing. You're just struggling your own way to do your own things, but the ones who are supposed to be doing the work, where unahusika.
Kama Eric Omondi alienda Turkana, akajenga classroom, akasaidia mali aliweza. Then the next day we saw again hired goons who went and destroyed the same classroom that was constructed. Then what are we saying? Because clearly inatuhusu, na hata tukijaribu kuingilia mahali tunahusika, the powers that be hawataki tuhusike.
Mahali unahusika sana is voting.
Okay.
You know this issue, even
we put our energy
ndio iko, involve yourself in politics. That is and even joining a political party. You know, people left out politics to the goons, ama watu wako tu nyumbani. You say I'm too polished for this money. No, mali unahusika is the political process, because when they influence the policies, really you will be there to say no, this one may voted in because of the economic policies. I voted because of the socialist aspect. I voted, everyone will have their own mix and match of what they stand for. So mali unahusika sana. It's not even about contributing your own money. It is where you vote in the right people. Because I've noticed many Kenyans, even you see comedians, some of them, others say, I'm not going to involve myself in politics. You're saying that, and we are all affected by the economy. You have shows, people don't even afford to buy tickets because the economy, we don't have that dispensable income. We don't have it. So mali unahusika sana is the political process, where you need to vote in the right people, involve yourself in a political party, also be an agent. Hapo ndio unahusika kabisa.
I feel like we have so many political parties in this country. Because if you look at advanced democracies, would like to think of them as very advanced. The US, I think there's like 2 parties, and then there are people who just decide not to be in either, they go independent. The places like the UK as well, I think they also like 2 parties. And it seems like it's working for them. So why is Kenya so obsessed with leo nimekosana na Kalonzo na Wiper party, I go open chap yeah, mwingine akaenda kafungua tip haya niko Jubilee nimekosana na President Uhuru Kenyatta, wacha nitoke nikafungue UDA, and so on and so forth. And we're seeing this over and it's like every election cycle. I feel like there are so many political parties that we can't even keep up with, and we know some of them are just self-interest individuals who just decide juu Justina amenikataa kwa yake, wacha nikafungue yangu. And then there's a whole issue of funding which we shall talk about. So then why can't we just have these parties do I call them legacy parties, and then Kenyans can make choices in regards to what you're saying, join a party, then change it from the inside? Or do I have to wait for you to open yours?
Our parties are not as many. Look at Germany. I think they're like over 200.
Okay.
And I think the more we have, the better. Because remember, this older generation guys, they won't allow you to speak. They start feeling like you're outshining them. I think the more, the better. In fact, even this issue, we have a majority in parliament. This is the reason why people are even bought. Let's have more. Let's have mix and match, so that even when they're having a conversation in terms of this idea, these ones have an idea in this. Because the issue UDA has more than ODM, then that's it. Even the richness of discussions and debates is lost in all of it. So it's better to have more, and even encourage Kenyans have more. They should even simplify the process, so that when we go to an election and today we don't get any seats, that party is closed. Next year next election wanafungua ingine, because already the process of registering is so easy. Hii maneno inafanya inakuwa difficult. Already hata watu wanakuwa discouraged. It even limits other people. Remember, registering a party is capital intensive. Yes. It's for the people who have the money. So it means mtu ako na voice, they cannot be allowed to speak in other parties, or they are told they are outshining the master. They'll never bring out their richness or contribution of policy proposals. So I think let's have even more. Those even 99, they are 91, they are kidogo. We need more.
Because I feel like we should be independent. A lot of candidates also being independent. A very good example is former governor of Meru. Sorry, she went in as an independent candidate, and then we still saw the politics that came up, and they marred that whole situation. Now she's no longer the nini. So does it mean that in Kenya, if you're an independent, then you just don't belong? The people might want you, but the powers that be, whether it's in the opposition or in government, where we come out aligned in a certain direction, nenda nyumbani.
That is a problem, because when I think there are some MPs who are independent, do you even hear them? What do they stand for? I think it's safer to be in a political party because there's this political party stand. And these days when you're registering a political party, they ask you, can you be specific on your ideology? So that even when you're voting, you say, I'm voting for this because this is what our party stands for. And again, political parties need to be democratic in a way that you can, before you join, you can say, me, I'm pro-abortion. The other, yes, I'm in this party, but I'm not pro-abortion. So you're given the leeway to say, I stand for this, but I don't, my moral standard doesn't allow. Other issues, sometimes you see people are saying, oh, like I'm in ODM is supporting broad-based, but if you're not supporting, you're saying, like, again, you're going against the party.
Yeah.
So they need to be democracy in the party, but we need more parties. I think even Germany has 200, and it's working out.
All right.
So we need more.
Yeah, I think that really works. And there's also this, the other day you just called upon the Homa Bay governor, Gladys Wanga, on the issues to do with democratic principles and the issue to do with manipulation, the independence. What do you have to say about our leaders, and especially those who are on opposition? And what is happening, especially in the government right now?
What I want to tell Kenyans is that, we usually vote because of, hey, Baba Kopale, you vote suit. So you don't even see whether someone has the spine to do anything. Yes. I want Kenyans to start questioning the principles. Why am I voting for Mbuvi? Because Mbuvi stands for this. So if we start voting for that, in as much as unapenda ule Justina pale juu, if this one doesn't have the spine, really, what are we doing? So inakuwa kama she's like a flower girl.
Yeah.
Why would you write a post and then you're made to delete? Why?
Justina,
what is Governor Bwana?
Justina, what is your election ambition going into 2027? I know for a fact you're going to be somewhere. We just don't know where. You started very high, which is a very good thing. Have you considered maybe also just uanze tu na mahali kwanza utapata ka experience kidogo before ufike huko? Kuna positions za Senate, kuna positions za governor, kuna positions za MP. I don't know. Who are we looking at in terms of Justina in 2027?
Mbuvi, by history, I started 2013, but I was supporting an MCA.
Okay.
Kule Mavoko. 2017, I ran for MP. And people are telling me, run for MCA. I told them no. The reason I'm vying was because I wanted to influence policies that create employment. At that time, there was this bill by the current governor of Nairobi, National Employment Authority. It meant that you build a structure. But now, how are jobs coming? How are jobs coming? You see, we didn't have the conversation of creating a conducive environment for businesses to thrive, for innovation to thrive, so that job opportunities can come. So that is why I felt there was a gap in terms of policy and creating employment. And that's why I vied for MP then. And then 2022, the opportunity to be running mate. So where will I be 2027? Let me tell people, sahi niko kwa watu wanaitwa inatuhusu, like I said. When the time comes, remember I'm a small fish. If I talk like ama mashako atanidishi.
Inatuhusu saizi. And you see, that's the thing about you saying you're a small fish, which is a good thing where you recognize the authority, opportunity, and maybe the strength that you have. But what if right now there's a young lady somewhere who wants to take up her ID card in the next couple of months, and she has heard you, she has read you online and so on and so forth, and she wants to vote for you? I think you need to start being vocal today. Because I'm sure wanajua, si ati hawajui. Wanajua Justina is coming, and she's probably coming in hot. So what's a danger in just letting people know that, look, Gachagua has started his presidential campaigns. Ruto and Kalonzo and the likes have been doing it for years now. What is the danger in you doing it right now?
The danger is that the sharks might bite me. But let me tell a young lady or a young man who is out there. There's a day I told Kenyans, there are those in government, there are some in opposition, but Justina Wamai is the alternative. Watch this space.
Justina Wamai is the alternative.
Is the alternative. And believe before even you leave, before you leave, if today you were given an opportunity, maybe to correct one misconception that people have about you, and especially coming back from the 2022 elections, like you had some manifestos there were some manifestos that overshadowed others, like the marijuana one really overpowered the others. If you were given an opportunity to correct one of a misconception that you feel now people have, what is it and what would you say?
the misconception that I'm a flower girl. Guys, I'm not a pushover. Remember, I really tried to explain about that marijuana thing. But everyone should understand, every argument I make is driven towards economic democracy. So when you hear me having a conversation, never look at the issue of, oh, this is marijuana. Look at the economic benefits. That is that's one thing I would want Kenyans to understand. And they'll be hearing more of the conversations of the economic democracy aspect. So that is one thing I would want to change. Something else, I know Kenyans always say, oh, I should have listened to my party leader. But in terms of principles, when I choose a side, I stick in that side. It doesn't matter who is going where. It doesn't matter whether even the person we're in the journey with goes. For me, the idea was, this was a manifesto. And I always stick on that side because of being of principles.
There's a gentleman called Githinji.
Yes.
He's listening to you, agreeing with more or less everything that you said. And one question he's asking is, how do we educate rural voters come 2027, or rather as we get towards 27?
We all have our grandmothers, everyone, we all have someone in the rural, in the village. One thing we can do as the young people is to talk to your grandmother and tell her, Shosho, where I'm borrowing money from you, or where I'm stealing from you, or where I come home drunk. Be candid. Is the fact that I'm frustrated, I've gone to school, I don't have money. But Shosho, if I would be able to thrive because of policies, then you'll never see me coming to beat you up because you've not given me money. You would be taking your money, ya majani, without considering you've already educated me. So I want people to have a human conversation with our grandparents, our uncles in the villages. Let them see the challenges they're facing daily. I've met some older folks who are saying, my children are educated, but they're always telling me I should die so that they inherit me. If you had the choice or the opportunity that I'm educated, I can thrive alone, would you even bother your old parents for inheritance? You wouldn't. So put that human face, and you tell your mom, your dad, that the reason we are voting for policies is so that you're also independent of my nagging. When you bring that conversation like that, even the rural folks will understand, because I know all people. Every parent, let me not talk about it in the rural folks. Every parent right now has a challenge. You have an unemployed child at home who is educated. Those are the kids who are bullying you. Those are the kids who are coming at 3 a.m. And I know people say, oh, when you say you don't have money, but you have money to drink. I've been there when I'm unemployed. I don't know where people come to buy for you alcohol. But you are going to have an issue with your parents because they're like, but not after kazi wona kunywa. So we need to educate them that for your benefit or for your peace of mind, I need to be engaged. And this will only happen with policies and legislation focus on growing our economy and markets and job market and job opportunities.
Thank you so much, Justina, for coming through. It's been an awesome conversation. I wish we had more time.
Thank you.
You're definitely going to be coming back. I hope tukikupigia simu hutakata.
Mimi. I told you we are age mates.
Yes.
Age mates hatusumbuanangi.
For sure. For sure.
Yes.
And thank you so much for sparing your time to talk to Kenyans and give them this very much needed advice as far as policy is concerned and as far as just the way forward is concerned. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
As far as your political ambitions are concerned. If you'd like, kama ulenda kwingine ukaambiwa tumekuja late, usijali. Radio Generation is here to listen to you.
Asante.
Yes.
Thank you. And of course, I know she will never be late.
Yeah. No. Yeah. She came early on time. I hope ulipatiwa kahawa. Kama hawajakupatia uniambie kadri na wasaidia.
Asante sana.
All right. Here's the news with Winnie Maganga. We shall definitely be back reading some of your feedback in the next hour. So don't go too far. We'll be right back.
It's 8:59.
This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. There is a need for policy reforms in the security sector in order to ensure protests in the country do not lead to violence and chaos as witnessed in recent days. Speaking on Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast Show, champion for economic democracy Justina Wamai says different police training make it difficult to handle protest professionally.
When the policies are right, everyone will have something to lose because they're thriving. If your business is working, would you come to be paid 1,000? You will continue with your biashara.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, you will protect your staff, you'll continue selling. And then those in power, and I always say the appointed and the elected, because they're the ones in power, they need to realize that there'll always be dissenting voice. Allow people to just demonstrate, let them say what they're saying, without really bringing in the issue of goons and fighting, even the police being volatile.
Omai says the training of police officers need to be overhauled to ensure professionalism during protest. She also decried the practice of police officers carrying guns during protest, saying this causes tension and distrust.
When the policies are right, everyone will have something to lose because they're thriving. If your business is working, would you come to be paid 1,000? You will continue with your biashara. Yeah, you will protect your staff, you'll continue selling. And then those in power, and I always say the appointed and the elected, because they're the ones in power, they need to realize that there'll always be dissenting voice. Allow people to just demonstrate, let them say what they're saying, without really bringing in the issue of goons and fighting, even the police being volatile.
Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja has denied claims that he sponsored goons to disrupt protests in the capital last week. Speaking during a live broadcast on his channels, the governor termed the claims as false, malicious, and politically motivated. During protests in Nairobi last week, a group of goons invaded the streets in the CBD and clashed with protesters rallying against the killing of teacher Albert Ojwang in police custody. A mask vendor, Boniface Mwangi, who remains in hospital, was also shot by a police officer, sparking widespread condemnation. 2 officers involved in the incident are in custody.
I have never and will never sponsor violence of any kind. My entire political life has been anchored on siasa safi, which upholds human dignity, the rule of law, and the democratic rights of every Kenyan. I have never used violence to gain power, and I never will. My record speaks for itself. These accusations are not only false, they're a desperate attempt by certain well-known individuals whose political careers are marked by violence, by intimidation, by chaos, who have gone as far as to hire goons to come and infiltrate protests.
Amid the planned impeachment of Isiolo Governor Abdi Guyo, a section of professionals and elders from the county have appealed for calm. The group called for dialogue between the assembly and the executive. They said although impeachment is a legal process, it should only be employed only if all other means have failed.
Ingawa ni chombo halali, ni hatua kali ambayo inapaswa kutekelezwa tu wakati njia zingine zote za utatuzi zimeshindwa. Inaweza kusababisha ukosefu mkubwa wa utulivu, usumbufu wa utoaji wa huduma.
Wameanza kidogo, haki yao ni haki yao ambayo kisheria amepewa, lakini kama sisi wazee tumeonelea, hatuungi huyu mkono, lakini tunaunga amani ya Isiolo.
Thika Town is a step closer to being declared Kenya's 6th city. This is after Kiambu County Assembly unanimously approved a report recommending its elevation, setting the stage for the matter to proceed to the Senate for debate and possible approval. The report follows an earlier submission by Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi seeking to transform Thika into an industrial smart city. The proposal will now be forwarded to the Senate, and if approved, it will be presented to President William Ruto for final consideration. Kenya Police FC have officially been crowned the 2024-25 Kenya Premier League champions following a 1-1 draw with ex-champions Gor Mahia at Ulinzi Stadium on Sunday. Police were awarded their new trophy as they began celebrations in earnest. Musa Sharif opened the scoring for Gor Mahia in the first half, but just like they have all the season, Police came back once again and drew level through David Okoth in the second half to secure a point. The final league standings read: Kenya Police 65 points and Gor Mahia second on 59 points. And that's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga.
What is Coca-Cola? Is it an excuse to get together? Since 1886, Coca-Cola has been passing on smiles from generation to generation. We've been giving kids scholarships, like the early birds and the all-nighters. And you get to enjoy what matters most. Coca-Cola. Drink up.
In the beginning, there was morning radio. But now there is Radio Generations, the People's Breakfast. Curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights. This is the People's Breakfast, and my name is Mungala Mbuvi. A very good morning to you wherever you're tuned in. Thank you so much for being here together with us, and we pray and hope that indeed you are getting the information that is most important to you through these conversations that we're having this particular morning. It's now 6 minutes past 9 o'clock, and I'm with Triciah. Wayua. Triciah,
Yes.
have you heard what Mheshimiwa has said here? She has touched on a couple of things that I feel are quite important to the Kenyan population. Number one, she has mentioned the police reforms, which every single person, I'm sure right now, is definitely championing, and especially people who are on this other side of the divide that isn't of politicians. Because at one point or another, you have met or at least have had to interact with the police service. And many people will tell you that it wasn't necessarily a very polite interaction. It was one that was just chaotic. Yes. Yeah, so I agree with some of the things that she said. Where I have a question though is how we can actually make it like she mentioned, the HR segment or part or department of the police service. How we can actually privatize that. I don't know. When she was talking, were you just doing the calculations and seeing how that is possible or impossible?
Well, and that is why I asked her, like, how can this be done in a real situation?
Yes.
You see, ideally, it works.
Theoretically, yes.
Yes, it will work. But now I'm looking at the practical bit of it. I'm looking at how Kenyans sometimes we respond to this. Some of these requests, some of these policies. I'm just looking at how we do, and I'm also looking at how the nature of Kenyans. Yeah, there are some to some extent there are some people who feel like they are more entitled to that part of being able to control, being able to run, being able to manage the HR bit of the police, whatever reforms.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it is okay. It is an idea that we can start with. Like she has said, it's not a must that we always learn from others.
Yes.
Others can also learn from us.
And
other people can also learn from us.
Yeah.
If it can work. But for me, I feel still as a government, we are able to make sure that these reforms work, because I feel like most of the time the reforms do not work just because there are some people just are trying to put that obstacle.
Vikwazo.
Yes, I just feel like because look at what has always been happening. Like we've had a lot of reforms. Nakumbuka wakati wa Maraga,
Yes.
kuna zile zilikuja. Even right now we are talking of police reforms. We've always talked of police reforms.
Yes.
We've always talked of them. Forces being created or to work on this, to address this, but nothing really happens.
There's no action point that we can actually refer to.
Yes.
There's something that she also mentioned, or rather something while she was talking, I was just asking myself, fine, we might want to privatize aspects of the police. How about we just go to where the police the police service is working and is working very well, where we don't hear of police brutality. I can just pick up a random country, and I'm not saying that this country is perfect, but a country like Italy, for example. Umesikia Italy makarao akishoot watu in the streets during protest? Si ati hakuja kuwa na protests Italy, sijasikia. Country nyingine inaweza chukua.
Well, for Italy, like I was telling you some other day here, I was talking with somebody who comes from there, who is partly Jordan, partly Italia. So, and what he was telling me, by the way, was telling me that Kenyans are just like Italians, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, he was telling me Kenyans are just like Italians. So most of the
in
time,
terms of our culture, in terms of
in terms of our culture, in terms of how we receive some of these policies, just like Italians. Then I do not want to I do not want to put it in a bad image, like that we like complaining and so forth. Because you see, when you hear Kenyans complain,
Yes.
they are complaining because there's something that is not working right somewhere. I told him we cannot just be people who are just complaining with no reason.
Yes.
Kenyans complain because there is a reason somewhere.
Yes.
So when you use Italy, I'm like, kidogo, they are almost like us.
Yes. I'm just looking at countries in Europe, and I'm just picking random countries just to check if there's anything that is worth noting. For example, I've just Googled here Luxembourg police, and I can see that there's apparently a story about someone who died in police custody. So, like for example, the Nigerian authorities are demanding a probe into the death of a Nigerian who died while in police custody in Luxembourg, and so on and so forth. So, I'm saying that things happen all over the world for sure, yes. But how comes here it happens more often than not? We cannot benchmark with American police because we know their brutality has been very rampant. We cannot benchmark with, say, the British police because we also know their things have not necessarily been, rosy as far as policing is concerned there. But I'm sure we can find a country that we can benchmark and just ask them, how have you been doing it in your country? How is it that we've not heard of brutality in your country? That is police brutality. We've not heard of cases of death in your police cells, or even the public rebelling against the policing authorities in those particular countries. And once we do that, maybe privatization will come much later, because kuna vitu zingine tunaweza fanya tu leo. Tunaweza fanya benchmarking leo. Tutume Inspector General of Police Kanja na a few other policemen when hizo countries. They just look at how things are working there. What is your relationship with your citizens, for example? And how are you able to just have a cordial relationship with those said citizens? So if we do that, maybe, just maybe, I don't know, just maybe.
Ndugu yangu, most of the time tunasifiwa sana, especially our army, our whatever,
Yes.
tunasifiwa sana kwamba we are one of the best. Yeah? We are one of the best. So, well, like she had said, there are just a few things that can really be done in our police force. Well, police service, let me call it service, so that we correct everything. And especially like some of these, if they are taken seriously, especially like this one for the training, I feel like it could be the refresher trainings, development, training and development for the police officers and so forth. I feel, it can be able to sort a big part of the problems that we are facing. And again, part of these reforms, the issue to do with the welfare of the police officers. Yesterday, when I shared the poster on my status, there's a police who saw it, and they texted me.
Yes.
And what he told me, he told me that you people, you do not care about us.
Them as the police now.
Yes, you are always fighting us. You people, you don't even care about us.
And by you people, he meant the media or just Kenyans in general?
Just Kenyans. Okay, those people. Just Kenyans. Media, everybody. Yeah, he was telling me like, you people, you do not even see, nobody even appreciates the work that we do. Like sometimes we are out in the night, trying to protect you, trying to protect the country, trying to protect your properties. And you people, you do not care. You do not care. You do not appreciate us. Just because maybe somebody somewhere failed, doesn't mean the whole system has failed.
This is what I think, Patricia. And I'll be very honest to every police officer listening to me right now. It's not that Kenyans do not care. It's just that Kenyans, majority of them, have not had a good experience or a good encounter with the police. For instance, I remember there's a time we were being robbed kwetu nyumbani. Tulikuwa tunaishi mahali Ngong Road, and we called the cops. The cops took hours to arrive. I think it was past 2 hours by the time they were coming. And remember, we have a direct line to the OCS. we had a direct line to many other officers because some of them were friends. People we've met kwa sehemu za burudani na tumeenjoy pamoja. So imagine you calling imagine if I was a police officer in your area, unaibiwa na wezi, unipigie simu, then I show up 2 hours late. Yet you know where I live. I am not, rather there where the police station is not far from your residence where you are being robbed or you are being battered by your husband, and then the police takes time to arrive. You see, that's already for me, and this was me growing up. I already had a perception about the police. Okay, it wasn't a positive one. The other aspect.
Let me before you leave that point. Did you maybe imagine
yes.
They did not even have the car with them that can take them to where you are, you people?
Right.
Did you imagine maybe something of the sort? Maybe did you imagine
the
procedures?
Distance.
The procedures, yeah.
They were a walking distance, 5 minutes away at the very most. Na hiyo ni ukitembea kawaida, ukikimbia it's probably going to take you a shorter period to get to where we were. All right.
Yes.
And fine, I get, we need to consider, okay, maybe malu alikuwa, and but this is
the procedures also.
In no way, I'm not trying to paint the cops in a bad light, but when they finally arrived 2 hours later, we asked them, afande, tulipiga hii simu kitambo sana. Surely 2 hours later, hata wezi walishaenda, ingekuwa wanataka kutua, angekuwa washatumaliza. What is this? You know what one of the cops told me? He said, pia sisi ni binadamu na tunahofia maisha yetu. And from that point onwards, and remember, this is me in primary school.
Yes.
Nilijua I can never rely on police for my own security. You understand?
Well, I know there are so many experiences. There's also a time I used to stay in a place called Lucky Summer, just behind the Kasarani Stadium. And also, such things used to happen, like you call them, and now they will arrive immediately after the thugs have left.
Yes.
You get, and then now you could hear people say that ukiwaambia wamepita watu wanatokea hivi ama wamekimbia hivi, they will not come through that direction. Well, this now brings us back to their welfare.
Yes.
Yeah, the issues to do with their welfare. They are also they are also human beings, by the way. Yeah, and that is why sometimes when I see maybe our fellow Kenyans, you're provoking a police officer, you also need to understand this is also a human being.
And he also has feelings.
Yes. And by the time maybe they get control of their emotions, maybe something.
Might be too late.
But it might be too late. So I think, even as we are pushing this, we are pushing the government on their part, because like we've said, there are so many reforms that have been proposed before.
Yeah.
There are so many forces that have been created to solve some of these issues before, but then we've not seen them work. We've not seen them yield what we really envisioned. So we are really requesting the government to continue.
Yes.
Like they talked of the issue of funding, and I saw in the budget they got some good money, right? But they also talked of the issues to do with na magari nini, and I saw wameanza kupata magari since the start of the year. So now there's this bit of the culture that is in the police.
There's also, we've seen other officers who, public figures in the police industry who are really good at what they do.
Yes.
And we love them.
We love them.
Samido is a musician, great musician.
Are you loving his work, or are you loving his music?
I actually listen to his music. Yeah, he's a good musician, and he sings a lot of sense.
So before my point disappears, Mungala, I think the issue that I'm pushing at is, even as we push for the reforms to be done, even now the police themselves, they also have a responsibility by themselves. You see, the issues to do with mental health.
Right.
Also, apart from the community, the society where you live, your family, you as a person, including me as a person, I have a responsibility to my mental health. So it is also something that we request that the police also take responsibility of your mental health. It is very important, because I do feel most of these things they do, like when taking out your gun and shooting somebody.
Yeah, an innocent bystander.
And yes, it is something that goes mental. I guess to think that like you are not able to control your
Yeah, because why would you shoot especially that specific person? I mean,
Yes.
you could have shot anyone else, but
Yes.
you chose that one who was just standing, no big match. Yeah,
So I feel like
Yeah.
it has to do with the issue of the welfare of the police, and this apart from the government having a responsibility, also you as the police, you have a responsibility over your emotions. Like we were saying here, you need to have responsibility over your emotions.
I know cops are not necessarily the best paid workers in the country. We know also their living conditions are not necessarily the best.
Yes.
We know they have got what you've just mentioned, mental health issues that they need to take care of, because sometimes cops find themselves in some of the worst places.
True.
Every single day you're sent into the world not knowing that you'll be able to come back home.
Sure.
Some of them have got to deal with death cases where someone has died, a homicide, and you're going to view this dead body, and sometimes, especially cops who are in high risk areas, every single day, or at least a few times in a week, you have to encounter a dead body. You have to go to the morgue sometimes as you're delivering that body, and you're in that environment that is very disturbing. Some of them have got to be there, especially if you're the investigating officer. You have to be in the mortuary when an autopsy is being carried out. And I know sometimes it takes a lot on your mental health. And the question is, do they receive the help that they need to just ensure that every single day when they encounter this issue and they get back home, they are okay? And don't forget, you're going through all this na mshahara itoshi. You can imagine every single day, wewe kazi yako tu ni kuiti yangu, kuna mwili ilipatikana in a certain apartment, mwili ilipatikana kwa shamba fulani, mwili ilipatikana kwa barabara, and you as the police, hiyo ndio kazi yenu, by the way. So the reforms, these so-called police reforms, hizi vitu sijui zitatokezea wapi na zitaendea wapi. To be honest, sijui.
Let's start with the training.
The curriculum. Now, Justina told us it's 9 months. We thought it was 6 months last week. Now we know it's 9 months. And she said that it should actually even go to 2 years. And I'm thinking, why not? Because by the time you're training this person to go out there in the field, to handle a weapon, a device that can make or break, take away life. This is not someone you just train for 9 months. This is someone you train for by the time unamrelease kutoka pale kwa kiganjo, huyu mtu akienda pale anaelewa ile responsibility yako nayo. Huyu mtu anajua that I have lives in my hands that I need to take care of, and I will do my best to ensure that these lives that have been entrusted to me are well taken care of. So we do hope that one day, as far as Kenya is concerned, we'll see a force that is properly disciplined, a force that we can be proud of, because hii Kenya ni yetu bana, si ya mtu mwingine. Hatutaachia hii Kenya watu wa Uganda, hatutaachia hii Kenya
ni sisi tu
watu wa Tanzania.
You would think of the future of your children, the future of your grandchildren. What will they find?
Good question.
That is what will they find your grandchildren wakigrow? Because like, if kama tutaendelea hivi tunaendelea,
tutaenda wapi? Tutafika wapi?
Watoto wetu, wajukuu wetu watapata nini?
Now, there's a story on page 2 of the Standard newspaper, and it says that I was attacked in broad daylight as police watched, and this is according to a lawyer. Lawyer Ken Ocheng had to fight off goons determined to rob him. His assault, now gone viral, has seen police officers accused of enabling the violence. We already spoken about this story. I wouldn't want to dwell on it for so long, but yeah, some of the issues that we are grappling with. Actually, we saw this video. We saw this video last week. This guy was assaulted in town by the goons that apparently were hired by someone. Yeah, so this is actually very disheartening, and we hope that things will be good going forward, and especially on Wednesday. Musician Samido jets back to the country, subtly hints at resignation. Still on page 2 of the Daily Nation, of the Standard, and still on matters police. He was transferred to the anti-stock theft. Yes. And he says, how he predicted that from just a simple transfer, I think he needs to explain to us. He was transferred. Yes, he was transferred. And someone says it's because he was chanting things that do not align with, his code of conduct. And to be honest, I kind of sort of agree that as a police officer, publicly, you shouldn't be campaigning for the ouster of your boss, you know, and especially of the commander-in-chief. However, I also recognize that Samido is a Kenyan and he has rights like every single one of us.
Sure.
He should be allowed to express it. So now I don't know, where do we find the balance? Where do we find the balance between going public with a certain chant and being private with those feelings?
There's a difference, by the way. There's a difference. Sometimes
where do we draw the line?
With your opinions, once they are just within you, inside you,
I think that
they do not influence anything. But once your opinion is out, it will influence your listeners. Those people will listen to you.
Because let's not forget, the president is the commander-in-chief.
Yes.
So you saying that you do not agree with him and chanting something contrary to him being in office, you know, that's an issue. Yeah. So how do you take orders from, because you've clearly told him, mimi sikuheshimu, hiyo si uongo, umemwambia mimi sikutaki hapo mali uko, lakini at the end of the day he's supposed to give you orders. So how does that work? It's like your house help or your house manager comes and tells you, wewe kidogo
uongozi wako kuna venye lakini bado you are there, you still want to work for
bado anakupikia chakula, anakufulia nguo, anakushughulikia watoto. Kidogo hapo kuna conflict.
Well, I think this also brings the whole issue of Mbuvi, the issue of those public servants and their opinions on maybe leadership and so forth. I think for a long time, you know, as a public servant, you're unable to question your boss, and if people do, they do it chini ya maji.
Inafaa kwa hivyo actually. We saw Justin Muturi while he was CS came out very strongly to condemn you know, the violence that was going on, and that was actually a very good statement. But now when he got to a point where he was disagreeing with the president publicly, me, I'm for the idea, look, I want you to disagree with whoever you want to disagree with, which is your right, number one, fundamentally. But I also believe that you should get to a point whereby you resign. We see that happening in the States. You resign. We saw Elon Musk resign. Na venye ali resign akatoka nje akaanza ku speak out against Trump.
Yes.
But when he was in government,
he was still there,
I'm sure he probably tried his best to do what he can within government to make things work. But akona, it's not working.
If it has failed, you walk out.
So I don't know if Justin Muturi tried his best while still in government to advise the president vilivyo, of which he admitted that he did, na akasema the president didn't listen to the advice. So he came out and I think he didn't resign. He was fired.
The same case with the former deputy president. Also, you know, after coming out,
opposing the government while still inside.
Yeah, that is when now he spilled the beans, like saying that, you know, mimi sikuwa nakubaliana nayo. You see, this one pia sikuwa nakubaliana nayo. You see, and now Kenyans are like,
I feel like
you are silent. Most of these things when are being done, you are silent. We have never seen. So when you say now they do it, I square it with you. You know, I'll come. I'll tell you, Mbuvi.
Yes.
This and this and this. You know, people do not know.
People
do not know the conversation that we will hold on private in private. Yes.
Yeah.
So when I come out later, that is now when the questions will be.
Yeah.
You were there. We never saw.
It's like you know, being abusive to your partner because they are not doing things the way you expect in your marriage.
Yes.
So unaenda umemchapa bibi yako, which is something we do not condone. Instead of umemwelezea asifanye hivi, babe, stop coming home late. Babe, stop chatting with other men. Babe, you know, stop dressing like this while going to work. Na ukoona haski. Sasa badala ya kumchapa, so umpe talaka. Divorce this partner and move on with your life, as opposed to beating her and to some extent even to the point of death. And that is why I'm saying, even in political marriages, you are appointed as CS in government and you're saying that the government is not working. You've tried explaining to your boss, the president, ukamwambia Orezo, hizi vitu bana kidogo hazinimeki sense, ukajaribu kumadvise na uko na haski. Me, I'm for the opinion, hold a press conference and say that I am guys, I tried as your deputy president, I explained to the president and this was not happening, and now mimi I have decided.
But that
to
is
bounce.
what, okay, that's what most of these
He held press conferences to tell us that things are bad, but while still in office. You see, even Justin Muturi, unatuambia vitu ni mbaya while you're still inside.
So nataka if they had to talk, waongee kama walishatoka.
Itisha press conference na utuambie ukiwa hapo. Guys, things mimi nimejaribu. Na ndio maana leo the 23rd of June 2025 I hereby resign as your DP. Ngojeni mbele nitawaambia venye kutakuwa.
Okay, do you think, Ama, don't you think that this will be taking us to a place whereby now we are going to encourage the people will just be there, we just be flower girls, flower boys, manake if my boss is not doing what he's supposed to do, and because I fear nikiongea na nafaa niongee nikiwa nje, then it means that I'll not want to get outside because kila mtu anatafuta kazi.
You know what? Hold that thought.
Traffic.
So this is what is happening on the roads of Kenya right now, starting with Nairobi. I mean, it's what, 9:30? Huko hamna shida. The only place that I can see a slight issue, if I may call it, is on Lunga Road. Watu ambao wako huko industrial area, sehemu za Cosmos Pharmaceutical Limited, the road there is kind of bumper to bumper, and I wonder what you're doing in industrial area at 9:31. Ndio maana mna cause this much traffic. Which industry is this one that Kenyans are driving to? Aya, let's head on over to Enterprise Road. A little bit, this I understand, it's because there's a small construction there as you're trying to join Mombasa Road, so a little bit of traffic there, snarl up because of the construction or the road repairs that are happening on that road. Sasa watu ambao wako kwa Nairobi Expressway, you guys are on the clear. However, on Huru Highway, the road right there is bumper to bumper. You guys are not moving at all, and this one is on both sides while getting into town and while getting out of town. Bunyala roundabout as well as you're joining Huru Highway as well, bumper to bumper. Then last but not least, there is this Douglas Wakihuri Road also as you're joining that roundabout at Bunyala roundabout. It is bumper to bumper.
Well, on your way to town, Kiambu Road, I'm told that things are quite okay, except as you enter Thika Road. All the way from Githurai, things are quite okay. Apale Survey, I see things are quite okay. Up to until the area of Pangani, as you get to Ngara, that area, kuna a little bit of a traffic. Then even as you get to town, then Jogoo Road, watu ambao wanatoka industrial area, as you head towards the city stadium, pia pale kuna a little of a snarl up. Then all the way Jogoo Road, kuanzia hiyo city stadium all the way to town, pia there is a bit of a snarl up, but things are moving, you know, bado ni mapema, but the good thing is hakuna magari mob kwa barabara. All the way to Mombasa, things are quite okay. That is at the lights Kengeleni junction there. Things are quite okay.
All right, so that is your traffic update as of 9:30. If anything changes or if you notice any incidences, please let us know.
Traffic on Radio Generation.
And we're back with our morning conversation. We're just talking about the way things need to happen differently, and that is where reform, for me, that is where reform starts from. It starts from the head, trickling down, and perhaps we shall see a better future, better Kenya coming. So you've asked me if because of job security, if we should leave office. Yeah, I believe we should.
Well, yes, people will leave office so that they can be able to criticize the government. But because I feel like not most Kenyans are going to leave office, because we know the economic situations in our country, not so many people are going to leave, so they will still stick around. And sticking around, that is where now we are encouraging that the government is not working, tunaendelea tu vile iko. Tuendelee tu vile iko, because me, I do not want to talk.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm not going to resign.
Yes.
Mimi nataka pesa, nataka niendelee pale. So I don't know what can really be done. Or what can be said, because as you've said, we have seen all the way from America as a case study of if you want to criticize the government, you've sat down with maybe a certain leader. I'm not just saying that the government per se, just leaders. even in companies,
general,
yes. If maybe you cannot agree on some policies, you cannot agree on how maybe you want to run the organization, you have to step aside and then allow them to continue with the government. But then now utakuwa bado you have not solved the issues.
All right.
Yeah. So, Mbuvi,
yes.
There's a story here. I saw it over the weekend. That is a report from the controller of budget.
Right.
Yes. And she was pointing out on issues to do with expenditure and what she called our leaders are really marrying on the funds that are allocated, especially on county levels. And she gave us a statistics on the foreign trends, on foreign travel spending, 2024-2025 financial year.
Yes.
And she said that total foreign travel expenditure between July 2023 to March 2024, over 30 counties collectively spent 1 billion on foreign trade for seminars, workshops and conferences.
Yes.
Na kapeana pale hivi a list of what the top counties. Nairobi, which had spent 229.79 million. Machakos following there at 82 million.
Yes.
Lamu 76 million, Kitui 66, Mombasa 59, Nakuru 57, Nyeri 55, Kisumu. And then myself, I'm just looking at well, there are some destinations there ambazo walienda. Common destinations included, they went to Spain, they went to UK, they went to the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Uganda, Tanzania, Egypt, Singapore and the US.
So they were going to do what exactly? To discuss governance here in Nairobi?
Yes, they are going, some of them are going for trainings.
Yeah.
And workshops, seminars. Others are going for conferences. Others are going for benchmarking.
Right.
And the controller felt like this was unnecessary. And especially when the country is financially struggling, like we are even unable to raise the funds that are needed for the budget at 2025.
Right. So obviously, my answer, I'm sure even people right now have already predicted. It was unnecessary. Very unnecessary. This is not the first time we have seen the county government, and it's not just the county government of Johnson Sakaja, but even the county governments previously of Kidero, of Sonko, of was she called Kananu? All those county governments have had this particular situation whereby they think that you need to go out of the country so that you can get the knowledge that right now we have invested in technology. Right now we have these beautiful cameras in studio right now.
Yes.
And Kenyans all over the world are able to access this conversation. And we're able to interact with them. They're able to chat us, WhatsApp us and so on and so forth and give us their feelings as far as the topics are concerned. Why can't we invest in the same? Because the infrastructure is there.
Yes.
The software is there. What is so difficult? We have smartphones. We can log into conferences from wherever we are, even from the bedroom. So why is it so difficult for the county delegation in Nairobi or whichever county to just say that, look, instead of spending this millions of shillings going to this
traveling to
we just buy airtime, which will cost very little, and the other 200 million that we could have spent, we put it into healthcare.
Basically, COVID-19 assured us that it is approved to us that it is possible. Some of these things can be done, not in the office. These things can be done, and that is when now all of us started appreciating technology in terms of you can do a meeting, you can work from home, you can do a meeting from wherever you are. But I think it is something that the government is not ready to continue. These governments, actually, even the county governments, they just want to be there in person. It is something that we are really pushing for technology, like we adopt technology on all the activities that we are doing in our counties, in the government. But then there are some people who are not willing to do that because, of course, you know what is going to happen. Like, I'm going to give you an example of a